Good morning, race fans, and welcome to the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series. Hard to believe we're already halfway through. This season has just flown past us. Today, though, we are set to kick off the second half of the season around the streets of the Motor City at Detroit Belle Isle. Hello and welcome one and all to RaceSpot TV. My name is Oliver Bremble with Stefan Schlacker beside me in the commentary box, and Ryan Bauer operated the cameras for tonight's presentation. So, Stefan, it has been an absolutely barnstorm of the first half of the season, from races over at the Hungarian to Barber to Old Tim Park. It has just been about as thrilling of a season as you could possibly hope for, which means I'm feeling good coming into the street circuit at Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, last year already it was a great season for the IVRA GT Sprint Series, so was only expected to form them to more to come. And yeah, with the second half of this season coming to a soon close, just for 6 rounds in this season, the heat most definitely is on for these guys.
Of course, take a look at the schedule. We are here at Detroit today. Next time around in December, it will be time to go racing over in England for the Brands Hatch circuit, with us rounding out this fall season at the Circuit João Villeneuve on December 19th. So it should be an absolutely fantastic close to the season with 2 very exciting racetracks. And you talk about the standings going into today. I mean, you take a look at the pro standings alone. Penalties Racing started off the season so well, but it has just seemed to fall apart for them in these last 2 rounds, only scoring 94 points at the Barber Motorsports Park and 132 at Old Tim Park, and they presently sit just 49 points clear of the next closest driver of 5-Star Motorsport in their Porsche 911 GT3. So it has not been an easy run from Penalties so far. 5-Star and, in fact, Team RSL both looking to try to close in that gap to the points lead.
Yeah, I mean, last year already Manichi was having some issues throughout the races, so once again that continues for the number 8, but I'm very sure that in the second half of this season Manichi Racing can pick up the puzzle pieces that they still need to be even more dominant than they were at the start of the season.
I think the biggest story coming into today is the Pro-Am standings. Look at that number for Project Dynamics. 600 points to their name, over 150 clear from the Quasar Sim Racing number 26. They have won every single race in Pro-Am so far this season. However, here in Detroit, that reign could come to an end. The number 21 Lamborghini has not had the best of runs. They sit about 7th from the bottom on the timing boards here in practice so far. So for Project Dynamic, not looking good if they want to hold on to the points lead and their 100% winning streak. They almost lost it at Old Tim Park, but they managed to come away winning half the races, though, in all the races in the first half of the season. That's not a bad way to start your season, I'd say.
No, most definitely not, Nolan. And you know, I think these guys are a little bit sandbagging here in the bottom of the score sheet, because I'm quite sure that these guys have something in the back of their hand that they are not yet willing to show.
Of course, for the AM standings, it is still Westwood Racing Esports up ahead of the World of Sim Racing team at the number 151. This is the closest points battle you got for the points lead in any of our classes today. 28 points separated the top 2, with 200 points up for grabs here tonight. That gap can flip-flop at any point, with even the slightest of errors befalling the Westwood Racing Esports crew. So it has not been necessarily an easy run for Westwood to hold on to it, but it will be an interesting one to hang on. Now, of course, we are doing, as always, the good old HyperX giveaway here in this series, and the giveaway for this round is going to be a 2-piece set, a Pulsefire Haste Gaming Mouse, and a Pulsefire Matte RGB mouse pad. And we'll get the Easter egg for you on screen here in just a moment. Of course, Detroit is known as the Motor City for a reason. It's the city where Henry Ford premiered the automotive assembly line with the world's first mass-produced car, the Model T. So you can see that Model T down there on the bottom right of your screen. If you happen to spot that thing at some point throughout tonight's broadcast, well, you can go on over and enter that giveaway via the a link through the bottom of the description, as well as pinned to the top of the YouTube live chat. So that's a little something for you guys to keep your eyes out for tonight. Of course, HyperX is a gaming gear brand committed to making sure every gamer feels that they are included. Their motto is, no matter who you are or what you play, we're all gamers. So need a mouse, headset, keyboard, or more? Never fear, HyperX has you covered. The peripheral sponsor for the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series we checked out at HyperXGaming.com. So practice about to draw to a close. We're set to see what qualifying will bring for us.
Obviously, on a track like Long Beach, qualifying is highly important, so these guys most definitely have put the majority of their practice sessions into creating the picture-perfect qualifying setup for their driver to take qualifying. There aren't many passing opportunities, it's very technical as well, not a lot of long straights either, so you really need to make sure that you can be as far up the grid as humanly possible.
We've seen it before, right? Detroit is such a hard track to overtake on, and that means it could provide some troubles here for these guys over in Q1 and 2. Of course, Q2 will be taking place for the first little while. I believe it's the top 5 in practice that get a free pass up into Q2, so that should make it a rather interesting race for us here tonight. They've got that free place up for them to work their way up into the top order of things, which obviously makes it a little bit easier for the guys further down the order, but at the same time, they might not be able to get their hammer down as quick as they might like in qualifying with so little time to work with.
Yeah, have to be quick, have to be decisive. Just 1 or 2 mistakes on your fast laps and you could already find yourself locked out on the bottom of the sheet. So timing is crucial as always. You also need to find a little bit of a free spot as well, because we do have a lot of cars that are going to be running in Q1. So yeah, timing crucial. Lap counter is also crucial because, as I said, it's not a lot of laps that you're gonna get here today.
And so you can see now some of these drivers getting set to work their way around the race circuit tonight. You got Thomas Kobe, the Olympus Esports number 46, who will head the way across start-finish. He'll be the first driver to put down a lap. It's 1:34.868. That is your current benchmark time to work with. Top 10 from Q1 will be promoted up to Q2. And they'll duke it out amongst the 5 fastest drivers from the practice session as well. So Olympus Esports is off to a great start for now. VC Racing Rouge is the next driver to log in a lap with a 1:35.6. That's almost a second, though, off of Olympus Esports time. So already you can see a much wider split than we might be used to seeing at some of the other tracks out here tonight.
Yeah, especially with the different cars we have. Not all cars are fitting to this layout. Very bumpy, very tight and twisty, as there was a short yellow flag out in turn 4. I'm not sure what that was for, but either way, it is all clear once again. So yeah, these guys most definitely fighting a lot much more with the surface than really with their own lap times, because if you're smooth over the bumps, clear over the bumps, that's where your lap time really comes from.
Being smooth over the bumpier portions of the racetrack is obviously such a very, very crucial thing that these drivers are going to have to navigate over the course of the night. And still got 3/4 of a second separating first from second place here in Q1, a total of 5.6 seconds over the total spread. And it's Olympus Esports on top and bottom of the time lapse so far. The 46 machine up on provisional pole for now. How about VC Racing Rouge, though, looking to put down the hammer? They break in to the 127s of the 723 machine and log on 127.952. That's about 3/10 quicker, but they still got quite a ways to reel them up, still being 4.5 off. But how about Munich Racing looking to put the hammer down early on? They log a 127.5, and now Team RSL by 5-star go to the top. Here in the qualifying, they log a 127.340. So Matt Hutzfeldt going to be logging in a solid flying time in the 198 Audi R8 LMS for Team RSL by 5 stars. So looking good for the 198 crew.
Yeah, right now first and third place for the Audi R8 machines, in between Olympus Esports with their Porsche 911 GT3 car. So yeah, quite mixed top 6-7 positions, as well as there's BMWs in 5th and 6th as well. So yeah, great diversity right now with the manufacturers in the top 10.
And this diversity is obviously what you want to see, right? You got all these different manufacturers working their way up and through here, and you know, you even look back over to the standing for a brief moment, and you got guys like the Audis, you got the Porsches, the BMWs, the Lamborghinis, all up there racing for the front. Interestingly enough, the Ferraris have not had too much luck over the course of the night. The furthest up they are throughout any field so far is 3rd place in the Pro-Am category, which obviously it doesn't necessarily bode well for them, as it could potentially mean they have a bit of a struggle going on throughout the course of the night. Team RSO in the 197 going to set the new benchmark time. And how about Team RSO by 5 start fighting right back? The 127.218 immediately bested by 127.155.
Yeah, so the two Team RSO cars in 1st and 2nd separated by about 7/100th of a second as well. So they most definitely have nailed their setups to perfection. It seems like putting in a very, very similar times right now.
So both RSO cars looking to do some good work out there today, both running the Audi R8 LMS as to be expected. You look a little bit further down to one of the Lamborghinis ducking its way through the fountain sector of the racetrack. This is Jean Charles in the Cube Racing 890, one of the drivers that is yet to set a qualifying lap over the course of the night. And we'll be seeing what that 890 machine will be able to do for us so far. The Cube Racing 890 has been in a bit of an interesting situation in the last few races, being almost collected up in quite a few incidents, and of course at Alton Park did not go their way at all. They were collected in the brunt of the incidents over there, only logging 25 out of 200 available scored points after not making starts in races 1 or 2. So the Cube Racing crew definitely looking to see if they can potentially have a better outing here tonight from Detroit Belle Isle. They are currently good enough for 17th fastest on the boards, just ahead of the BSTV Esports machine and the number 4 car further down the order. But they are the slowest of the drivers, excuse me, that are up to speed. So some work to be done in the Lamborghini.
Yeah, I think the Lamborghini is actually the worst car right now. No, actually, sorry, Olympus Esports, the 64, they are a Ferrari, so they are right now the slowest of all the manufacturers, sitting all the way down in, what is it, I think that's 11th place, if we counted that correctly. So yeah, 10th and 11th for the Lamborghini and the Ferrari, so most definitely lots of ground to cover up for these guys.
The clock continues to tick on down. Look up to the Munich Racing number 8 Audi, and so far it is an Audi 1, 2, 3 on the grid. So it is looking like the German outfit will, of course, be in prime position to be able to have a solid outing here tonight from the Detroit Belle Isle. Andreas Thiel currently ripping the number 8 car around the racetrack, which means we could expect to see Andreas Thiel starting this race in that Munich Racing number 8. They are looking to maintain a points lead, about 43 points coming into today at Detroit, but he's going to bail out for that lap, take it back down to pit road. So a couple of drivers now opted to come on down and kind of bail out on their previous lap. You'll look back up to the Westwood Racing Esports team. They are leading in the AM category thus far in their number 87 machines, and Benjamin Openkowski are looking to put these guys in a good position to maintain that points lead. And you talk about having a good day for that for them. Now, the AM category, some of the slower drivers we usually see in these outings here, Stefan. How about 6th fastest overall, though, for Westwood Racing Esports up on the boards for the time being? So they're going to bail out of their lap, yes, but it's going to be a solid run for them nonetheless, especially if they can maintain that type of position coming into the main race.
Yeah, even though they both host the label, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're always going to be slower. There might be some tracks, like maybe it is for them the Detroit Grand Prix on here, so most definitely a very, very great outing already in qualifying, and hopefully they can continue to produce such a great outing with the upcoming races as well.
We haven't talked about the BMWs too much throughout the course of the night. You ride on board at the moment with Belle for the VEC Sim Racing Rouge machine. The 723 originally had set the benchmark time. They have since dropped down to 7th place so far. The BMW M4 GT3 just does not seem to have too much pace underneath it here today, as it is Audis, Porsches, and Lamborghinis out there in front for the time being. So Belle might have a bit of an interesting run for him so far, setting himself up for another flying lap, and you have to wonder what he'll be able to make for himself. Adam Wright also in a similar situation. He is now down in 11th place so far for your AM category, which could make this a rather rough situation. So you wonder what could potentially be the hampering issue for these BMWs around Detroit, right?
Yeah, it most definitely is. Oh! Did he catch it? Yeah, he did. Great job by Adam right there. The issue for the BMW is here that on Detroit, Belle, there is just a lot of slow turns, and obviously with the slow turns you need a lot of acceleration once again, and that's exactly where the BMW M4 is struggling. With the amount of torque it has, it's just so difficult to keep the rear in check with no weight above it either. It just spins up the rears. You get a lot of tire wear as well. The tires start to heat up more than on other cars, and so you continue to get into that downward spiral, and that just is the BMW. If there would be more medium to high speed corners, this car would definitely much more strive here, especially with the very bumpy surface.
And that is interesting to see that the BMW is still struggling so much, particularly with that bumpy surface. They were actually looking very strong, not just at Ultimate Park, but particularly at the Barber Motorsports Park. But of course, both those tracks do have a considerably smoother track surface to work with. So that could potentially be why we're seeing the BMW struggling so much here today compared to some cars like the Audis. VEC Sim Racing going to go now 5th fastest on the boards as Olympus Esports improves up to 3rd as well with a 1:27.268. So a solid outing for the 723 and the number 46 machines. Both drivers just looking to potentially coast it back now to pit road. Here you can see one of the RSO Audis, and that is the Team RSO by 5-star, your provisional pole sitter for the time being. So this will be interesting here. And for those, of course, that are not familiar with how the qualifying works here for the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series, you, of course, have got 2 different qualifying sessions. You have Q1 and Q2. Q1 has drivers from 6th place on back, judged from practice times, duking it out for the remaining times. From there, the top 10 in Q1 will race it out with the top 5 drivers from practice in Q2 for that provisional pole spot in the final 15-minute dash for Q number 2. 2 minutes are remaining in Q1, so for a lot of these drivers, they're now going to be starting their final laps they can get in this qualifying session.
Yeah, and just last season I was racing as well in the IVRA GT Sprint Series, and you know, we always said we want to be in Q1. First of all, you get that extra drive in Q1 than you do in Q2. Plus, on top of that, the times obviously they don't get deleted from Q1 into Q2. So if you have a great run in Q1 that you can't match in Q2, and nobody can match in Q2 either, well, then you have pole position even though you set that lap in Q1. So it is just much more beneficial to stay in Q1, go through Q2, and have that extra try either way. And so we always did set it up like that. Obviously much easier, you don't have as much pressure on your runs, but some people actually still want to go for that Q2 only appearance because they think that with the added pressure of just a Q2 run, they can perform much better.
I think that's something that the top 5 in practice are definitely going to be appreciating, right? Because they're the guys that are not even allowed to participate in Q1. They have to sit it out for Q2. But for the other guys, you still have to put in a semi-respectable time because it is only the top 10 that advance through into Q2. So you have these various different dynamics of drivers throughout the field. And I find it interesting that so few drivers have already set times. You've only had 18 out of the 28 drivers so far set times over the course of the day. Now, I know 5 of those cars are going to be making appearances out in Q2, but you got guys like the Rusty Spatula's World of Sim Racing team, Mag Performance's junior team, Impulse Racing's 257, RSR by G Performance, all have not made starts so far here in Q1. Why do you think that is?
Quite honestly, I have no idea. Maybe they don't want to qualify, can't qualify, don't feel comfortable qualifying, maybe? Yeah, it is weird. Maybe they do have penalties, but I haven't seen anything that would suggest that anyone has to sit out qualifying. So, yeah, a little bit of a interesting move from these guys to not go into qualifying.
Of course, Detroit, it can be a rather attrition-filled racetrack, right? And we've seen this before, especially in the reverse grid race that's going to be taking place for the final race of the night. It'll be, it could very well be an attrition-filled race, and at Detroit, it doesn't take much for cars to be tipped around. So I think you actually might be correct in saying it could be a comfort thing. Maybe they just feel more comfortable sitting around, riding around in the back for a little bit in this race before they work their way up to the front. Let guys make the mistakes and kind of crash out up the road before they actually, you know, take them out with them. So checker flag has flown on Q1, just waiting on some drivers to either finish their laps or come down pit road. And the drivers that will be advancing forward into Q2 will be Team RSL by 5-star, your current provisional pole sitter with a 127.156. Followed by Medici Racing. You got Team RSO in third with Olympus Esports in fourth, VC Simmers and Rouge in fifth, Project Dynamics in sixth, Vector by RSR in seventh, Westwood Racing Esports down to eighth place with Simtech Motorsports in ninth, and it's Impulse Racing's 256 machine to round out the top 10. It'll be those 10 drivers plus the top 5 from practice, which were the 5-star Motorsports along with RSR by G Performance, Ronin Academy, RSR by G Performance EU, and the Torque Free Racing Team Speak machines to duke it out in Q2 for the pole time.
Yeah, now what obviously one thing that we always did think about when we were racing going into Q2, we don't want to embarrass ourselves. We still want to have a good lap. We still want to have a lap that is as fast as in Q1. And that's also the reason why we never wanted to go into Q2. You know, you have that kind of thing behind you that could always strike, and all of a sudden you're, instead of starting inside the top 15 or top 10 or top 5, you're starting all of a sudden from that last, because obviously if you crash out in IVRA, you are done in qualifying.
And of course, you talked about how some guys potentially would have had penalties that they would have had to serve here. Well, it looks like the 116 machine is actually in that situation. We found the reason why the Pure Sims Esports IVRA machine has not been out for qualifying yet. They actually have a penalty where they have to start at the back of the grid for the next event in race number 1. That came all the way up early in a race, very early on. Same story for the 151 machine for the World of Sim Racing crew, and in fact for the 111 machine of the Mag Performance junior team. So that's why all those drivers hadn't qualified. It was in fact penalties, not a comfort thing. Having to start for the back of the grid at the next event in round number 1 is what it says for the race control decisions at Alton Park. Of course, that comes here at Detroit. So, well, there you go. Crash that they caused over, or deemed at fault for at least, over in races 1 and 2 at Alton Park. Now see them really being hurt here at Detroit.
That makes sense why they're starting from the back end of the grid. Obviously, not only is that a big penalty because you have to start from the grid, but it's an even bigger penalty because you're having to do that at Detroit. And as said earlier, this track is notorious for the difficulty to get past any car. Even if it's multi-class, it still is extremely hard for cars of a faster class to get past a slower class.
And it's also compounded in the HyperX GT Sprint Series with the fact that they're all technically in one GT3 class. They're just split up by driver speeds. You have the Pro, Pro-Am, and the Am racers as well. And obviously that doesn't help. That doesn't necessarily help make it any easier for these drivers to try to, get past. Which means if you're a guy that's trying to pass a Pro-Am or even an Am driver and you're up in the Pro category, you almost have to hope for them to move out of your way here.
Yeah, basically, you kind of have to hope for that. I'm not sure if we're going to see any lappings. I don't think we're really going to see any lapping maneuver too early into a race, probably halfway or even later than that. But yeah, for pros, pro-ams, and since they don't score the same points system, I don't think they're scoring off the overall. I have written it down somewhere here, but I can't find that note right now. I think it isn't really any cause of trouble for pros if they're behind AMs or pro-AMs, and the same thing is if they lose that position to a pro-am or RAM, it's not going to be too much of an issue, but obviously you still want to start ahead because physically in the starting grid for round number 2, that is going to make a difference.
Oh, absolutely right, and you're correct. They do score these points based off of class finishing positions, not overall finishing positions. It's only the actual grid orders that are lined up by overall positions rather than class. And of course, so if you're an AM card, you pass up a pro-am card, that's not going to help you in the points battle, but it does put one more car between yourself and the next driver you're racing behind you. So that is obviously something to keep in mind over the course of the night. We saw this being used in full force with, of course, you got guys that were looking good, potentially have a solid outing for themselves over in that over at Oulton Park. And I know Project Dynamic actually used that to full effect, right? I mean, they were looking to potentially have a few cars for themselves to close our sim racing machine over at Oulton Park, but they opted to pull aside and let a few of those pro cars through because you're not going to gain anything by fighting them. Why take the risk?
Yeah, exactly. It's only a cause of risk that isn't really necessary. You can just let them pass. You're not going to lose anything points-wise. So it is sometimes wiser to not put yourself under the pressure of having to defend them, maybe even lose time because of that. And so all of a sudden you have your competitor that you're actually racing against right behind you, and you actually have to fight for position.
And so Q2 is underway. The green flag has flown, and you can see these cars working their way around the racetrack. Once again, we get set to see how this Q2 session could shake up the order. You've got 5 more drivers that will need to work themselves up and see if they can potentially take away a pole position from the Team Marcel by 5-star, who currently set that benchmark in the 198 Audi R8 LMS. Want to point out that Medici Racing's number 8 crew, they did put in a flying lap at the buzzer, just 16,000ths of a second off of the 198. So Medici Racing and Andreas Thiel looking to work themselves up well into the top 5, if not on the front row by the time this race comes around. You see drivers starting to log more and more laps as they come down across start-finish. So far, there's been no change in how the running order has played out thus far in qualifying. And as I say that, RSR by G Performance already set the new benchmark time. And Stefan, we talked about how the BMWs might be struggling. We'll tell that to the 69 car up on provisional pole by 2,000 from Team RSO.
Great lap there by Sean Campbell to put his BMW in first place now. Yeah, as I said, there can be just troublesome spots, there can be struggles, but you have the chance to diminish all of these potential issues of a car because you can set up the car to your liking. So if you somehow still can drive around those issues, that doesn't mean that you're going to be necessarily slow or off pace just because you're in a car that might be struggling at a track like Detroit. So just 2,000ths of a second separate your top 2 drivers for the time being. The margins are oh so fine at a track like Detroit, and Team Marcel likely going to be looking to fight back. They might be able to pull out just an extra couple of thousandths to work their way up into this outing here. And we should find ourselves with a solid run thus far. The 5-star Motorsport HyperX Porsche 911 GT3 goes top of the boards with 127.127. But how about RSR G Performance in the BMW fighting back right away with a 126.915. One of the only drivers
And in fact, one of the only 2 drivers to work their way up into the 126 range tonight. The other driver, conveniently enough, was the 5-star Motorsport HyperX Porsche. They were in the 126s in practice. Now RSR gets them in qualifying.
Yeah, so already have been practicing quali runs here in practice with a 27.087 RSR by G performance was, but a even better time in qualifying. Obviously, the track temperature is starting to rise ever so slightly. Still, the track temperature up to 28 degrees Celsius, so maybe 28 degrees Celsius is just that sweet spot for this BMW.
Thomas Cope and the Olympus Esports crew looking to potentially work his way out of pit road. He is just on pit exit at the moment, looking to see if he can maybe put down a fly lap to work his way up further into the top 5. At the moment, I believe currently sits 6th fastest. And at the moment for him, it is just 500ths up to Team RSL's 197. As the Torque Freak Racing Team Mitsubishi now going to go 2nd fastest onto the front row with a 127.025. So close to being the 3rd driver to punch into the 126s all night long.
Yeah, and I would be surprised if anyone else can match a sub 127 in this qualifying, because, well, yeah, Stock Freak Racing TeamSpeak, they are 127.024, but it really does seem like that only RSR by G Performance is able to go below that 127 mark and really have put out a statement. However, it's only 9/100th of a second between RSR and TFR, so maybe we're still gonna see an upset pole position by maybe TFR.
So look back at Maniti Racing's Andreas Thiel. They were looking so good in Q1, set a 2nd fastest lap time, but they've already been bested by 3 more drivers. That now finds themselves all the way down in 5th place. So Andreas Thiel in that pro category, you ride on board with Maniti Racing, Audi R8 LMS, diving their way up and down throughout the bumps and pushing as close to the limits as you possibly can. It is a very inviting circuit when you take too much speed through, but 1 mile an hour over, and you're not going to find yourselves clipping a grassy runoff area, right, Stefan? You're going to find yourself into a hard concrete wall, and that wall, it wins every battle you try to put up against it.
Yeah, always is gonna be the winner of any battle you try. I mean, there are a couple of spots where you could get away with hitting grass, like especially in the fountain section. There are 4 corners where you can hit the grass on the inside though. However, you would manage that is a little bit beyond. We probably would have to hit the concrete barrier on the outside first to go to the inside. But yeah, apart from that, as you said, it's a hard hit to the concrete wall. And yeah, concrete walls, they might seem a little bit cozy, but don't be mistaken, they can be very harsh with the words they have to say against your car.
And speaking of flirting a bit too close to the walls, Maniti Racing did kind of slap the outside wall in turn number 5, I believe. So Andreas Thiel is going to be having to take that one back to pit road with a lot of damage on his machine. Now, as a result, look up to the 4th place car, the 198 Team RSL by 5-star machine, driven at the moment by Max Torg Hutzfeldt, trying to see what he can do in the number 198 Audi. See if he can maybe work his way up into the front row with about a 1/10 that he's got to make up if he wants to close in that gap. Doesn't log a lap this next time by, could be on a flyer here this time. And this could be the best passing opportunity we see on the entire track so far. You can get a good run out of turn 2. It's a hard brake zone up for turn 3, but it is a 90-degree right-hander, which makes it oh so fine to be able to try to close your way up, clattering over the curves in turn 4 and flirting with the left side wall, down for 5 and then out for turn number 6. This leads us up now to the 2nd best passing opportunity on the racetrack, on the longest straight of the track, all the way out through turn 6 down a sweeping straightaway up into a very fast kink at turn 7. And then, of course, this is the section that everybody dreads to round the bend. You find a car stop sideways in the fountain section. Turn 8 is the tightest corner on the racing surface that you see the Team RSL 5-star machine go through now. And you're always turning through these increasingly slower corners and then out of the hairpin at turn 11, stepping the back end out just a little bit for Hutzfeldt. as he continues to log down time out for turn 12. Now for 13, a bit of a faster right-hander than that of turn 12. That'll be a flat-out turn 14 to round out the lap. Closing in on the 127 to the 126s. Can he log in a time good enough for the bull? 127.226. Not good enough to improve this time around.
Yeah, actually was slower than the time that he did already set at one point. So
you see Eimir Blom, the VEC Sim Racing Rouge machine, now working his way around into the Pro-Am number 723 entry. Currently sitting 8th fastest on the boards for the time being. He's going to clap the outside wall, though, at turn number 3, and that will invalidate the lap for the number 723 entry. So unfortunately for themselves, they currently come into this race 4th place in the points. They have been steadily decreasing in the number of points they've been gaining so far throughout the season, looking to improve here at Detroit. And at the moment, they have 25 points to work up to the next closest driver in front of them. Look a bit further down the order, you got the Ronin Academy 79 entry. The Lamborghini of Josh Polan behind him is yet another one of the striking machines driven by Rainer Wayner in the Impulse Racing 256. How about one of the other BMWs out there on circuit at the time being with under 5 minutes to go? This is Marius Volokas in the RSR by G Performance EU entry. The number 68 car only good enough for 10th place at the moment. And the 68 car going to be definitely looking to see if he can potentially work his way a bit further up through the order. I find this interesting, right? Because, I mean, you got the 68 entry who's going to be looking for a solid outing here tonight. And they are currently, I believe, the 68 car at least is sitting 5th place in the pro standings, but they're sitting 10th place at the moment in the qualifying orders, which goes to show that, you know, these street circuits, they can be a great equalizer. It's a track that doesn't necessarily rely more on the type of car you drive, but it can rely a whole lot more on how confident you are around it.
yeah, you know that the interesting thing is with Andreas Thiel, his best practice time was a Marius Valiokas. He did put in a 27.115 in practice, but only has been able to do a 27.655 in qualifying. That was only his first lap that he did. All other 4 thus far have been invalidated by one form or another. So Marius most definitely struggling quite heavily.
3 minutes to go in qualifying, and of course these drivers will not be able to finish up their Q2 lap times here, so this means you got to get those times in now. Some of these drivers could be starting their final laps here in just a moment, but for them to try to work their way a bit further up on the grid. RSI G Performance and Sean Campbell has been toppled from the top of the timing boards as 5-star HyperX is going to go through and put their Porsche 911 GT3 on pole position. The number 5 entry was fastest in practice. They are fastest in qualifying, only 11th thou off their fastest practice time with a 126.847. Adam Isaacson gets set to put that thing on pole position.
Yeah, so another great line, this time by Porsche, also not the greatest car around the track like Detroit, but Adam Isaacson making it work nonetheless, about half a tenth ahead of the 69. What can Sean D. Campbell do to once again regain his lead?
2 minutes remaining here in Q2 at Detroit Belle Isle. Drivers will be starting their final laps of the session for the time being. Marius Volokas of the RSRG Performance EU has promoted his way up to the 8th position. He is going to be trying to work his way up potentially towards a top 5 spot. That's where he needs to put that number 68 entry. So what can some of these drivers do? This is going to be the last attempt to try to go for a qualifying attempt. If you have anything in your back pocket, this is the time to show your hand.
Yeah, it's basically now or never. So if you decide to have a little bit of a kiss with a wall, it's not the time to do it. Do it after the race, do it in warm-up, because most definitely then no consequences will be done to your car.
With one minute remaining, Andreas Thiel comes across the line. He cannot improve in his Beniti Racing number 8 entry with damage on the rear wing. Team RSO by 5-star also not able to improve from the 4th place. So that leaves the next closest driver, Project Dynamic, the leader in Pro-Am. And they have so far got a 100% win streak, but they might be starting midfield for the number 21, a Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo. So this could be an interesting run for Lord Ibrahim Aliot in the number 21 Lambo. He'll come across the line this time by trying to improve on a 27.719. It's a 28 though. He's not going to be able to improve on his lap times either. Still watching some of these drivers looking to come across the line in the final stages. So you see Adam Isaacson pulling it down to pit road, and Cedric Nibelsack will be the same way, along with the Torque Free Racing TeamSpeak machine. So a lot of drivers opting to bail out of their final lap times. That leaves Sean Campbell, the RSRG Performance BMW. Can he potentially work his way and put that BMW on pole position, chasing a 126.846, looking to come across the line this time, but doesn't get there in time though. And so that will round out qualifying, and we have our starting grid for round number 7 here at Detroit Belle Isle for the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series. It's Adam Isaacson for 5-Star Motorsports on pole position. Starting beside them will be Sean Campbell in the RSR by G Performance BMW. Ronnie Nunez for the Torque Free Racing machine is going to be in 3rd place, with Team RSO by 5-Star beside them on road number 2. Moniti Racing looks to hold on to the Pro Points lead. They start 5th place, with Team RSO down in 6th place. It is Olympus Esports and Thomas Cope in the Porsche to round out 7th place, with RSR by Primus down in 8th. You got VC Sim Racing in 9th and Ronin Academy down in 10th. Pro-Am leader Project Dynamic is going to be starting in 11th place of this one, with SimTech Motorsports all the way down in the 12th position. Moving on down through the order, you've got Vector by RSR in 13th place, with the Am leaders Westwood Racing Esports in 14th. Impulse Racing is 15th, with Quasar Sim Racing down in 16th. Full Set Racings and Leon Erger is in 17th place, with Marco Silva for V Racers down in the 18th position. BSTV Esports is in 19th, with Olympus Esports and their Ferrari, the highest Ferrari up in the grid, down in 20th place. World of Sim Racing Team is in 21st, with the Cube Racing 890 down to 22nd. Awesome Motorsports Group is in 23rd, with Impulse Racing in 24th. Rusty Spatula is down in 25th place, I believe, starting from the back of the grid because they registered with the wrong car number, so a penalty for them, along with guys like Pure Sims Esports, Bad Performance Junior Team, and the World of Sim Racing crew, who are starting at the back because they have penalties to serve from the last race at Oulton Park a few weeks back. So all these drivers about to be gridded on up here at Detroit. We get set to see what an hour of racing holds for us in the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series, Stefan.
Yeah, it should be a great spectacle. 1 hour of racing with a driver swap. These guys most definitely will be on their toes, pushing 110% all the time. Watch out for the Audi Phalanx in the back of your top 5, because you have 3 cars in 3rd, 5th, and 6th.
And of course, we are happy that you're joining us here on a beautiful Sunday morning here from Detroit. And as we get set to get this race underway, the pace car is going to pull down the pit road, leaving it in the hands of Adam Isaacson. The final driver still trying to capture to the rear end of the field with a very short pace lap, but the green flag drops, and we say, let's go racing here from the Motor City. Isaacson's off and away, and it's a clean launch for 5-Star Motorsports up into turn number 1. RSR with G Performance under fire already through 1 and 2. Torque Free Racing G-Speed trying to work their way around the outside for Ronnie Nunez. The Porsche trying to fight back against the BMW behind. Beniti under fire from Team RSO for the 4th place. So far, it's a clean run through turn 1. The real question is going to be, how do they navigate turn number 3? It's a late lunge from drivers deeper in the field trying to work their way up through the order. Lamborghinis and BMWs everywhere down in the midfield. They single file it out from 1st place on back about the 7th or 8th position. Josh Pollade for Ronin Academy, though, fighting out with RSO Jim Performance, and it's a lock-up for the 79 car, sends it wide after contact with the BMW and the 68 machine.
Little bit of rear wheel to rear wheel contact there for Ronin, so that did send him a little bit sideways. They had another issue back onto the backstretch. So Josh Pollade not 100% happy right now with how his car is handling.
And Shane Burke and the Simtech Motorsports crew trying to work their way to the inside of Ronin Academy now, but so far nothing doing. The Lamborghini covers off the Audi up into turn number 7 at the end of the longest straightaway on the racing surface through the fountain section for the first time today, and it has still been a remarkably clean start for drivers all the way throughout your field. This race very much well and truly underway, and one of the tamest starts really that we've seen all season long.
Yeah, very clean. Maybe that is due to the nature of this track not allowing for much. So these guys are much more happy to sit behind and wait, because they know if they just put enough pressure onto the car in front of them over the course of this race, they will make their mistakes, and mistakes here are extremely costly.
So Adam Isaacson leads the way on lap number 1. You're right on board with Thomas Kobe, the Olympus Esports Porsche 911, down in 6th place at the 46th entry, trying to close up to Mats Torg Hutzfeldt in the Team RSO by 5-star 198 Audi, also trying to fend off another Audi just behind, driven by Cedric Nebelseck and Team RSO. Going to a replay here. One of these Lamborghinis further down the order. This is out of turn 2. Josh Pullein, I think, clipped the outside wall there, and you can see the Ronin Academy entry having some struggles, I think, shall we say, would be a kind way to put it. Up into turn 3, too deep on the brakes, and holy cow, you talk about overshooting the braking zone. Overshot it so far that he missed even the first tire barrier and slammed into the second.
Yeah, I wonder if also his little bit of internet connection problems had to do with that, because most definitely was having some issues for the entirety of lap 1, and maybe a little bit of a cost there as well. Either way, Josh Pullein decided to retire that car right away.
Not good news at all for the Ronin Academy crew. They were looking good. They were up in the top 10, but unfortunately, their day goes to tatters early on. He is the first retirement for the second half here of the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series here from Detroit Belle Isle. Lord Ibrahim Aliot in Project Dynamic is down at pit road in the number 21 Lamborghini. This is a very interesting call here early on. Remember, Stefan, you have the designated pit windows where you can come down and take service. That window does not open for about another 20 minutes yet. So it looks like Aliot having some sort of major issue that he's got to solve. And I think that might be the nail in the coffin for the 100% streak.
Yeah, most definitely seems like that. If I'm correctly, it opens after 25 minutes to get the window. So, yeah, just unfortunate for these guys. 100% streak. The good thing is, with a 100% win streak, they have a lot of points to give, so they can spare a very bad round like this one.
That is, of course, the good news, right? You've got over 150 points back to the next closest driver. You can afford to have a bad race or two at this point in time. You're not in a very crucial battle like the battle for the AM race lead for Westwood Esports, where you can't really afford to have a bad outing. So right on board with Cedric Nebelseck for the Team RSL machine, and here is your AM class leader, currently running 12th place, which for an AM car, definitely not a bad outing at all. Benjamin Openkowski currently heads the way, I believe, for your AM-class drivers. He's been trying to run down Ted Lowendick in the Vector by RSR machine, but I have a feeling we're not going to be necessarily seeing a battle for position here, considering that's a pro car right up the road from him.
Yeah, I don't think that there will be many attacks from that Westwood car, especially because, as you said, Vector, that is a pro car. So unless they're feeling like they get held up by the car ahead, there will be probably no moves taken.
So down through turn number 3 and out through 4, and it's not been an easy run for a couple of these drivers further down the order. Right on board with Marius Valiokas for the RSR by Primus BMW. He has been trying to work his way up there in the number 68 machine, and look at potentially get a run here on Cedric Nebelseck and the Team RSO. Look at RSO looking left, looking right on the Olympus Esports. Thought about a move up into turn 7, but there's just no space. Couldn't get on the brakes deep enough up into 7 to make that pass stick. These drivers are getting unnervingly close to the back ends of each other, right? Almost bum drafted down these straightaways. The problem is that you get thrown up the inside, but with how wide you have to swing to hold that momentum on the outside of these corners, the likelihood if you actually make it a stick is slim to none. Yellow flags being flown in turn number 12. I think Shane Burke and Simtech Motorsports having an issue. You can see him tumbling down the timing screens, and sure enough, stop at the rear end of your screens, and the Audi R8 LMS going to get back on track. Just crashed out at 9th place, it would seem. So the number 7 car having an incident might have been collected with VCO and Rouge. I just talked about how difficult it is to pass, and we'll take a look at this one here. Is there contact between himself and the 723 BMW? There might have been. Oh, there was.
No. Closed the door a little bit too much there on the BMW on the inside and spun himself around the nose of that M4 machine.
That is unfortunate for that Audi, who's going to have to spend his time working his way up to the field throughout the remainder of this race. On board with Sean Campbell in the HyperX GT Performance machine, this is your battle for the race lead at the moment. Trying to run down Adam Isaacson in the 5-star Motorsport HyperX entry in the Porsche 911 GT3. That Porsche, it wasn't the strongest at the start of the season, but it has been steadily working its way further and further up the grids in this race. Now it leads one of them.
Yeah, it's been a great job by the 5-star Motorsport team to try to understand that 911 better and better for each round, and most definitely have made the most of all their progress to finally be ahead of the field in a race.
What's been interesting is that you have the two most unlikely manufacturers at a track like Detroit both leading the way. It shows how confident the drivers in those cars and how fast they can be as well. On board with Neville second Team RSO machine, this remains one of the closest fights on track for 6th and 7th place. Thomas Cope and the Olympus Esports Porsche have been losing time to that Audi for the last few laps, and a bit early on the brakes for Neville set, but he's trying to carry the momentum through, and Thomas Cope misses both apexes. That gives the run to Neville set, but I don't think it's going to be good enough this time up into turn number 3, especially since Cope has still got the draft that he can work with from Matt Hutzfeld just up the road. And you see RSO showing the nose, but you're just not close enough to dive from that far back.
Yeah, always have to be careful with moves from far back, because it always sets up just a dangerous spot for yourself and the competitor. If you brake a little bit too late, you have to brake a little bit too hard, and that might just send yourself around because of rear brake locking.
And Thomas Cope, in turn, has been steadily reeling up to the other Team RSO machine. So you've got Olympus in a bit of an RSO sandwich between the 198 and the 197 entries, and Cope is trying to find a way past Matt Hutzfeld just up the road. You're right on board with Thomas Cope in that driver's eye view there, and you can see how much he's having to work the wheel through the fountain section. It is just not an easy task at all. It's a very tall task to even get a clean lap in around Detroit, right? Let alone a fast one. You look back further down the order, this is on board the 20th place driver of Matteo Carbonari in the Mad Performance Junior team in the Pro-Am entry. This is all the way down in the 20th place. He's been trying to reel his way up to Eric Rowe with the Pure Sim Esports IVRA machine, and headed up the this small train is Jean Charles in the Cube Racing 890 Lamborghini to head the way. So you got battles all the way up and down throughout the field, which obviously is something you want to see, right? I mean, it's no fun if all the only battles are up there in the top 10. You like to see the fact that these guys can race no matter where they are in the running order. We look back up now to Team RSO and Cedric Nebelsack, who tries to run down Thomas Cope and the Olympus Esports crew, and that RSO sandwich still looking to see if we can maybe hold on to any kind of positions here, and the 198 still holds on to 5th place for now. 4th place of an ET race that's starting to pull away from this train of 3 just behind. And you also got, don't forget, the RSR by Primus machine, driven by Marius Volokas, just in behind this grouping. I think might be just kind of biding his time, waiting to see if he can find an open door and go for a sneak attack.
Yeah, maybe sneak attack, maybe not. These guys most definitely sitting a little bit behind right now, having some issues themselves as well. As Cedric Nebelsick did lose his car a little bit through the fountain section a little bit ago, so that's why he is a little bit dropped off the back of Thomas Cope, but you never know. Andreas Thiel also not too far ahead of Mats Doggy Hutzfeld. That once again is a Team RSO car. So 4-car train, 2 Team RSO cars you never know what might happen with those two collaborating.
You're right on board with the back of Andreas Thiel at the moment of the Medici Racing Audi R8 LMS, trying to keep the Team RSO and Olympus Esports train behind him at bay. You have to always be on point here at Detroit. You cannot let your guard down for even a second, because if you let your guard down at this track, not only could you be under fire from positions behind, you could be under fire from the track itself with how these little hidden bumps can potentially catch a driver out if you're not paying attention, even for the guys that know this place like the back of their hand.
Yeah, as you said, you can't let your guard down. Like, even if you're not under pressure right now, you still need to be 100% focused, just because of how heavy these bumps are. You really need to be careful. Now, obviously it's nothing compared to Sebring, but with how many camber changes on top of that you have in the road itself, because this isn't an air field, this is still just normal roads that you're driving on that are this bumpy. You also have the camber changes from one side of the road to the other side of the road and stuff like that, so you still have to be 100% careful, especially if you're driving a pace car around turn 2.
Yeah, that's a bit of a throwback one, isn't it? That was what, 2017 I think that was?
I think, yeah, 17 or 18.
Oh, the memories. Good memories. Yeah, except for that one driver's likely having flashbacks of that at the time being. So, you have the 723 entry at the moment, watching that battle for 9th place. The VCO Racing Rouge BMW trying to keep the affected by RSR Beamer at bay just behind. And Ted Lowenbeck has been doing a solid job trying to reel in that VEC Sim Racing machine. The 723 could be under fire in short time here from Ted Lowendick, which would not be the best of news for him. Of course, you've got that 171 entry who is currently, he hasn't had a good run, really, has he? I mean, you look at the point standings for that 171, 58 points on Hungary, only 37 at Barber, 22 at Old Ten Park, has just had an abysmal season so far. They find themselves 10th place, though, at the moment. That's room for a solid points outing if they can keep it out of the wall.
Yeah, if they can keep it off the wall, that is the question. No, Eric Grove right now behind the wheel of that BMW M4 for Pure Sim. So, wouldn't be surprised if the 116 outing just looks for a solid race, no real drama, no nothing for these guys, and just, you know, keep their noses clean, and for the first time this season have actually a good scoring outing.
And they're currently in the battle with the Cube Racing 890 for the Lamborghini just up the road. And that 18 car, you can tell, is kind of holding up Pure Sims at the moment. The 116 has been struggling to find any kind of way past. They have got to get by in a hurry, right? I mean, you got yourself so much time that could be made up the road. You can't afford to be, you know, hanging around back here and battling it out with guys like Jean Charles. So the 890 goes defensive up into turn 3. Eric Grove thinking about the over-under from turns 3 to 4. Could he get the move done? Thinks about it, but there's just no space from 3 to 4. And Eric Grove's going to have to tuck that one in line for now. That does allow, though, for the Impulse Race 257 machine driven by Thomas Hagelstein to close on in from behind. And how about a lunge all the way back from turn 6 to try to have one up the inside into the longest straight on the track?
Yeah, it's actually quite an easy passing opportunity if you can get the run out of turn 5 right here. Not a lot of people always do expect that, so that tight radius turn that is opening up to the straightest, there's a little bit of a slow Ferrari up ahead.
That's Matt Loveridge, and he has got a massive damage on his front right. I wonder if he overshot turn 7. I couldn't think about why he'd be going so slowly if that was the case. And you saw that checked up. Jean Charles, the Cube Racing entry, along with everybody behind. Lucky that was not a tremendous accident. Oh, it is this time, though. The 890 overshoots. It goes into the wall. Rejoins. Will be able to get that one sorted, though, and keep that car out on track. The Ferrari going to keep it out there on the course as well. Take a look now at the race spot replay. It's coming down to the turn 7. It's way too deep on the brakes. And that's why he was slow.
Yeah, unsurprising. I wonder, did he shoot over the inside curb, or was that just way too late through the outside? Either way, that is probably quite a lot of damage for these guys as well.
And the battle's on for 18th place, Eric Grove and Thomas Hagelstein looking to duke it out for 17th place. Now you take a look at the replay of another Lamborghini. This is coming around through turns 1 and 2 here. Potential further struggles for one of the Lambos getting collected into BMW. Could have been a solid overtake, though, for the Cube Racing 890 inching further up the grid. Meanwhile, Pure Sims of the 116, they have found themselves past the Impulse Racing 257. They have both worked their way past the Olympus Esports Ferrari that found them being slow. Here goes Hagelstein up the inside of turn 7, though. That's a risky move over the curves. Steps to the back end now, but that's not going to work out for the two. Well, I think Eric Grove will be able to pull that one out in the BMW. Well, I say that, holding momentum from the outside line, and Hagelstein could have this pass done. Don't shut that door to her. We saw that happen earlier on. Grove trying to go for the over-under, but a tank slap or an exit causes him to fall back.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about. The M4 just has so much torque, it can't keep itself under check. So on the inside, being held to a very tight line, Eric Grove, no choice other than to line up the rears out of turn number 10. And that's why he once again had to concede P number 17 to Thomas there in that fight.
A great battle as well, though. That was a textbook overtake around Detroit for Hagelstein. I mean, doing exactly what you had to do, keep your opponent where they can't get the hammer down. And we'll now see Cedric Nebelsack with Team RSO trying to close on up here to RSR by Primus just up the road from them. And this is a battle that has the potential to start brewing at any given point. We've been seeing that Audi closing up more and more with that BMW. It's just been a matter of time before the Audi has been able to work his way past. So far, that has not been the case, but look how close he is this time around to the fountain section. He keeps that pace up, he'll be by him by the next lap.
Yeah, most definitely doing a very great job here. Maybe even already right now he's looking to the inside, but decides better off that move.
Yeah, making a pass up into turn 12 there, never a wise idea, so to speak. I've never seen a pass be initiated there that ends well. Maybe trying to find the long way around turn 1. Uh-oh, cuts back to the inside, lunges up for it, and is that going to be a clean pass? They just barely keep it out of each other. Volakis really went defensive there, and that caused Nebelsack to have to really back out through 1 and 2. Now, though, has the overspeed out of turn 2. Down the run for 3. Volakis goes defensive in the RSR by Primus Machine. RSO trying to fight the long way around 3, but nothing doing.
Yeah, it wasn't a pass, but most definitely was a clean fight between those two, and nearly hits the wall. And Nebelsack has to be careful to not want too much right now, because that Audi obviously notoriously unstable over big bumps.
And this time around, not as close in the run to turn 7 as was the last time through. I think that kind of attempted overtake around turn. Whoa! And just as I say that, a massive send from 3 car lengths back brings Nebelsack within inches of Volakis' back bump, but it missed the apex as a result, Stefan. That, I think, was just too overzealous on the brakes.
Yeah, it's just a little bit too overzealous, a little bit too aggressive. Has to check back what he wants from this race. Yes, this is 6th place up ahead of him right now, but in all reality, he's not going to get anywhere close to the top 5, because the gap already is over 5 seconds between 6th and 5th. So Cedric has to be careful in choosing his passing opportunities. Once again, a big send, and that was contact as well.
Shoving Volakis out wide, and the RSR by Primus Machine not going to be a happy camper with that at all. You almost never see a pass initiated into turn 1, let alone in GT3 machines. Take another look at this one from the air. Watch the sudden look to the inside, and that's a dive that almost never plays out well. And Volakis tried to pinch him in, tried to clone the same move earlier, but this time, Nebelsack was not having any of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if RSR by G Performance EU tries to protest that move, but I would nearly go and say that this was all along a racing incident. Volakis tried to close the door. Nebelsack was there, was far alongside as well. Great move by Team RSR. Oh, nice one, that's not so great though, they just hit the wall.
You talk about drivers getting a bit over-aggressive. Nebelson was trying to pull away, and I'm going to be honest, I think it might have just been the smallest of kisses, but that could have been so much worse. Take a look at the replay now as to how RSR got the spot back. Self-inflicted error, just looped back end, a little tag on the rear end, but not even any bit of damage I could see on the 197 car, so he is a very lucky driver to escape that wreck.
I think he is hurting. He is losing time to that RSR car, most definitely. So yeah, he has to be careful now. That was a hit just to the left rear, so that toe at the very least is most definitely knocked out of that corner.
We look up now to 5th and 4th place. Andreas Thiel still holds that 4th position. And Mats Hutzfeld driving for Team RSO by 5s on the 198 Audi, looking to see if he can have anything for the number 8 machine and the current points leader overall in the pro category. And so far, other than a very dominant performance in race number 1, I mean, Andreas Thiel and Beniti Racing have not been able to get the best of runs out of that Audi R8 LMS. They've just been slipping a little bit. You look back to Adam Wright, this is an AM class battle raging on deeper down the field. That is for 15th and 14th place overall. You got Impulse Racing just up the road from them. That is the number 17 car just up the road of the V Racers, driven by Nuno Costa, looking to do battle with them as well. Now, these are two drivers that are currently in a fierce fight for the final spot in the podium for the points in the AM category for BSTV Esports and V Racers. There is just about there's actually about 75 points that separate these two drivers, but tell you what, BSTV Esports is looking to try to close in that gap. They want to get back in front of V Racers in a hurry here. We'll continue to watch these battles duke it on now for the next little while here. We are getting closer and closer to that pit window, right? And that begins to mean a lot of these drivers are going to have to start thinking about where you want to make these pit stops work. The undercut or the overcut, which one do you want to go for? It's a question that we ponder over every single race. Sometimes the undercut has worked out, sometimes it's been the other way around. It's very hard to kind of predict how it's going to play out. I think the best way we can see how this pit window could open up for us here is to wait to see how it goes for race 1, and then potentially we could have some predictions on how race 2 could play out. You watch this battle for 9th place continue to start to develop on up here. Vector by RSR, the 171 driven by Ted Lowendick in the number 171, trying to fend off the Westwood Racing Esports driver, the current AM class leader, all the way up in 10th place. Not bad at all for an AM class driver, showing that they are definitely really confident with their GT3 machine here around the streets of Detroit. You got Leon Erger in the full send Racing 96 entry, just tucked in behind. Also trying to see if he can maybe work his way up into the top 10 here in this first race. That will be seen on the day here for the HyperX GT Sprint Series, round number 4, over at Detroit Belle Isle. On board with Opikowski, you saw Lowendick miss the turn to apex. That allows that Audi to start to close in the gap.
Yeah, and meanwhile, I've been keeping an eye on our trackers here for the Team RSO 197, and they are no longer able to go the same pace as RSR by G Performance EU. So Valiokas is most definitely starting to ever so slightly pull away from Naval Seek, and Naval Seek is starting to get a little bit of a friend hanging with him, Amerik Blom, starting to close in the gap. So Naval Seek, after his excursion right here into the tire barrier, is noticing that damage.
We saw Thomas Cope in the Olympus Esports Porsche fall down the order quite a few spots just a little moment ago, and I wonder if they potentially have damage on the number 46 entry. That would be bad news for them. They seem to be well off the pace at the moment, between 6 and 7. On board with the full send Racing 96 entry at the moment. We're going to see how this battle for 9th, 10th, and 11th could play up. And Westwood Racing Esports has been continuously trying to reel in Ted Lowendick. But I think the important thing to note here is that Opikowski does not have to go for that position. He's not going to gain anything from it. He's already gaining the maximum number of points that he can in the M category. So it goes back to the earlier point, right, Stefan? I mean, why push it for a position, especially at a track like Detroit, when you don't need to?
Yeah, exactly. It's just no need whatsoever. You can always be very careful, very cautious with your approach here at Belle, because you always know that there will be some drivers that try to do a little bit too much hit walls, and because of that miss out on vital points. And maybe that's what we see with Cedric Nebelsieg here. Just hit that wall, was already ahead of Performance EU, didn't need to push any further because I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have been able to catch the other cars ahead of him. So why go to risk and maybe hit a barrier just like Nebelsieg, and all of a sudden you're not only losing that one place to the car that you did already overtake, but now are also under pressure of maybe losing a second place just because of the damage.
And speaking of damage, it was major damage for Olympus Esports. They're in pit road now, just as the pit window opens. They put Lyubov Ozrestovskaya into the machine, but with that car crapped as much as it was, definitely some kind of a hit to the wall somewhere for Olympus. And Andre Chiza and the Mag Performance Junior team could be going in, as well as the 111 entry came in. So Matteo Carbonari left the car, and Michael Evdoka also hopped into the machine for the Pure Sims Esports IVRA entry as well. And he actually had a spin into the road. He's still sideways, actually. So Pure Sims Esports blocking the pit exit at the moment. That's what the yellow flags in turn 1 are all about. You take a look at the 116 machine now, still trying to get that thing fired and going. They've been stuck there for about 40 seconds now, Stefan.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, that is even a weird place to spin. So let's see what happens. Oh no, don't tell me Evodka lost it out of pit lane. Oh no.
He would have had to. There's the only way he could have been stopped in that area. He's currently up on the jacks here on this race spot replay. Now, of course, very, very bumpy pit exit here. One of the bumpiest you'll find on the iRacing surface. Leaving pit road, it's a hard turnout. And
oh no.
Immediately, the torque of the BMW, like you said earlier on, it catches out another.
Oh my goodness, Michael Evdoka. Yeah, new tires right there, if I saw that correctly. The 116 did take new tires, obviously cold. Yeah, it's so easy to do on the high torque of the BMW. Spins up the rear with that very tight exit that this pit lane also has. It's just an easy thing to do, but technically that should have been something that they would have practiced many times, because every single run you obviously start in pit lane.
And a lot of drivers are coming down pit road this last time by. 4 drivers leading pit road in the line, including the World of Sim Racing, Cube Racing, the other World of Sim Racing 51 entry, along with RSR by Primus, also is in the mix of things as well. So the pit window is well and truly open, and everybody looking to take advantage of that early on here. 2 drivers that have stayed out, though, so far. Is your battle for 4th place, which continues to rage on between Andreas Thiel and Max Tord Hutzfeld just up the road. You wonder which one of these drivers is going to blink first, try to go for an undercut here, Stefan.
Yeah, would probably have to be the car behind to start with that. So Matsuki Hutzfeld might try the undercut on Andreas Thiel, or maybe just try to go as long as possible. Obviously, depends on who is the fastest driver of the 2 in the team. If the fastest driver is right now in the car, obviously you want to have them as long as possible out there to make the maximum of your car. Maybe if both drivers are the same, you want to have them equal distances. We're all going to see how they're going to place this out in just a few moments of time.
And neither driver going to opt to come down this time around. You've got Max Tord Hutzfeld for Team RSO by 5-star, still looking strong to power through to pick up 4th place. And Andreas Thiel in the Maniti Racing Machine. ZV Sim Racing down to pit road. Team RSO's 197 entry is in, along with RSR by Primus down to pit road as well. Now that's an interesting call to, I believe, see RSR by Primus down to pit road. I thought they may have already come in, but I might have been mistaken on that one, as they are down pit road. And Impulse Race 256 also in for service. So it's VC Sim Racing Rouge Machine to the 723 entry, pitting out of 11th place. And as the rest of Skya, with all that damage, still sitting on pit road, it has fallen apart for the 46 Olympus Esports machine. And they are going to have a tough time trying to work their way up through the field in race number 2, as it is only the top 20 that get inverted here in this race. I mean, if you're below 21st, such as that Olympus Esports portion at the moment, you're stuck there for race 2.
Yeah, you really have to be careful with what you wish for, because obviously race 2, you're gonna have to grid from race 1. And, you know, it always is quite an issue for these drivers. Race 2, they can provide a little bit of carnage as well with how the format is for the IVRA GT Sprint Series. So, you know, make the best out of race 1, because you never know what race 2 might hold for you.
And the battle for 6th and 7th coming on down into pit road, vectored by RSR and Westwood Racing Esports, both in side by side together down onto pit entry. Well, not quite side by side, but nose to tail, as Obikowski was looking to get the position up on that last lap through for Ted Lowendick. So you see 2 more drivers now down and into pit road. This battle for 4th place, though, still picking on up throughout the majority of this lap. And they have both yet to come down and pit. Now, it is worth noting that pit window will close here in the next couple of moments, so I would think they'd both be coming in this lap.
Yeah, most definitely will have to, otherwise they would get disqualified, as we see some drivers, I think, pitting right now as well in the back half of your field. So that's why we're seeing quite some shuffling going on the left side of your screens. So let's see Matsuki Hutzfeld and the car ahead of him of Andreas Thiel. Maniti versus Team RSO. Pit lane will decide this battle, at least for now.
They've been so evenly matched this entire stint. Neither drivers were able to find any way through it. They stay out again. And just as I call that one as well, your race leader is into a pit road as well. Adam Isaacson for 5-Star Motorsports is down and in for service in the number 5911 GT3 entry. And he will be hopping on out, and it'll be Konstantin Sharp to work his way into that number 5 machines. We'll see what Konstantin is able to make for 5-Star out there here today. You look up now to Team RSO in the 198 entry, still trying to close up to your pro class points leaders, and this could be a fight for the ages here if this goes on down to where it could get spicy in pit road, especially if it gets side by side on pit entry. It wouldn't be the first time we've seen something like that this season even. So coming around through 6 and 7 at the moment, trying to work their way into the fountain section. Does Mats Hutzfeld have anything for Andreas Thiel? He is closer this time around than he was the last time by. As many more drivers looking to come on down and into a pit road. You see Hutzfeld, he'll be right in the thick of this thing. Team RSO by 5-Star trying to reel in Beniti Racing. Pit window coming to a close in just about 1 minute here. They have to come in this lap. They can't afford to stay out anymore. And sure enough, both drivers into pit lane. Oh, it's so close to the back end. Team RSO nearly rear-ending Beniti on pit entry. Now this is where it's going to be decided who will be the faster out of pit road.
Interestingly, both teams decide to take fuel over tires. Now, obviously, with having to be stationary for 30 seconds, nonetheless, it is not at all a difference between tires or no tires. So, oh, look at that, actually, Maniti going on the jacks now.
That's and this could be big. That could be big news as well, as oh, they're going to get away first, maybe. Oh, they don't. RSO scaps them in the pits. Team RSO by 5-Star works their way past Beniti Racing, overtakes them in pit road. Andreas Thiel still in the car, so even with the driver change, Max Rainmuller is going to be out in front. Andreas Thiel stays in. Drivers do have that one race where they're allowed to stay in the car, where they do not have to make that driver change. It looks like Benito Racing is making Detroit that choice to not go for the driver swap. So Thiel is still in, and Max Rainmuller will have to hold on for Team RSO just up the road. Here is Konstantin Sharp, your 5-Star Motorsports current leader of this race. And he will be trying to see what he can do in his bid for positions further up the order. Currently about to lap the Olympus Esports Ferrari, driven by Michael Ogren now, after the pit window comes to a close. And with that said, all pit stops, the scheduled pit stops, are complete now here in this race, which means this will be a straight shot to the end here.
Yeah, so the mixed pit strategy of Andreas Thiel is slower than what Max Riedmüller able to pull off. So a very great thing for the Team RSO by 5-star. Now the question is, they did look ever so slightly faster than Andreas Thiel. What can they do now that they have clean air in front of their noses? Obviously, a little bit of time has already been lost to 3rd place, but it's nothing that they can't make up to Ronnie Nunes now behind the wheel of Top League Racing Team Speak Porsche 911. There we go. It is, what is that, 2.8 seconds between RSO and TFR, but here comes the launch from Andreas Thiel, but to no avail.
He tried to pull the momentum around the outside line. It was battle of the late breakers, and Thiel won out in the battle for the late breakers, but wasn't able to turn in for the apex as a result, and Riedmüller will win out in that little fight. Andreas Thiel, he's not done fighting this one out yet. He's got the fresh rubber, which could play a factor in how this plays out.
Yeah, could play a factor indeed, especially with the bumpy surface. Obviously, it is a little bit of a greater gap between fresh tires versus old tires. However, obviously, right now Max Riedmüller, he is the car ahead. He can have that clear line. He can have also that clear vision of where he needs to brake and turn in. So Andreas Thiel, gonna be interesting how he is gonna pick up this fight now from that turn 3 launch rather.
So 4th and 5th place, this is the closest battle that you've got further upfield inside the top 10. From there, you have to look all the way back, really, to about the 19th place, or I would say even further back down to the 21st in order to get an actual battle for position that is, trying to go side by side. So you got yourself a lot of these little battles starting to pick up throughout the back portion of the field, and as well as this one trying to pick up throughout the front portion of the field. You saw the headlights start to flash there for the Team RSL 198, trying to let that Olympus Ferrari up in front of him know, get out of my way. This is a battle coming through, but Ogren was not necessarily willing to get out of the way of 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. I don't see why he'd be willing to get out of the way so much for 4th place either. That's going to be the case. Riedmüller getting checked up. That could allow Thiel to close on in.
Actually, there was still a great launch out of the turn for Riedmüller, so he is going to continue to have the position through the Corvette bridge. Once again, a late braking maneuver by Andreas Thiel to put a little bit more pressure onto Max Riedmüller. Obviously has been driving for the past 35 minutes, so might be ever so slightly rusty, Max Riedmüller, and maybe banking on pushing him into a little bit of a mistake that might let himself past that RSO car again.
Andreas Thiel trying to stay as close as he possibly can, but looks like Riedmüller is just a bit more confident with how close he can get to the outside wall on the exit of these corners, particularly in this 3rd and final sector of the lap. We are starting into the final 3rd of this race as well. 20 minutes remain for race number 1 on the night, but you still have got race 2 coming up in short order after the conclusion here of this opening race, where we'll be seeing the top 20 being inverted. So the driver that wins the race will be starting down in 20th place in race number 2. But we've seen it before. That creates, shall we say, an interesting, a chaotic scene, I think is a much better term of phrase for how these race 2 starts play on out. Go further back to the Quasar Sim Racing number 26 entry driven by Aaron Ackles in the Pro-Am machine. He is trying to reel in Clemens Babuka in the deal by Awesome Motorsports crew. The 74 Porsche has been looking good so far. And Aaron Ackles looking to make his way up one more spot. That'd be for 22nd overall.
Yeah, much indeed there with race 2 starts. Interesting, hectic even at points, especially if you're one of the drivers. I always had quite some fears about that race 2 start just because of having to start in the mid pack, and this might be a pass for position. Here it goes to the inside of turn 1.
And makes that one work. Clemens Babuka allowing Ackles the space he needs to complete the pass. So the Porsche battle comes to a close in race turn number 1. Of course, our Sim Racing Leo entry up past the Awesome Motorsports number 74 entry. So look back now to 4th and 5th place. Andreas Thiel still trying to close his way back up to Max Riedmuller in the Team RSO by 5-star entry, but he hasn't been the best of runs from Benitez Racing to try to close up the gap. Team RSO by 5-star has slowly been pulling away from Benitez just in behind, and I think that means that Riedmuller could be the fastest of these two drivers. He just needed to get some time to kind of get his footing again.
Yeah, most definitely. Riedmuller is starting to drive away ever so slightly. Last lap, literally only 1.04 tenths of a second that Riedmuller was faster. And by the way, he's not going to be able to catch a 3rd and a 4th, 3rd and so on, just because of Ronnie Nunes running 27.7s right now, where Riedmuller obviously is just that few tenths of a second slower. So yeah, Riedmuller 4th place, it's as high as he's gonna go.
Just kind of looking around throughout the order, there's also a bit of a battle brewing for 11th and 12th place out on track. The 723 VC Sim Racing Rouge Machine and the V-Racers Marco Silva entry have been getting a little bit closer the past little while. These are two Beamers looking to see if they can potentially do battle for positions. Of course, V-Races is one of those AM drivers out there today. And the 723 is a Pro-Am driver, so this would not be for a points position, just an overall bit of a bragging rights position for the first spot outside of the top 10. I wonder how that could mean this battle could play out, especially since they are not going to be pushing, I would say, as hard as we've seen some of the battles like that battle for 4th place. They're raging on just up through the field. I mean, you got guys that are technically in 2 different classes, right? It'd be almost as if you've got 2 different GTD classes. You got a GTE trying to pass a GT3, right? I mean, when they're trying to work their way back up through the field, you're not necessarily as concerned with battling it out because you're not going to gain anything from it.
Yeah, exactly. These guys, I mean, just look ahead of them. There's clear road ahead of them as well. So there really isn't much that they're going to be able to gain apart from that overall position, because it is 10 seconds between 10th and 11th at this point already.
It's going forward with Ronnie Nunes in the TFR machine at the moment, trying to run down Mark McCormack in the RSRBG Performance machine. I find this interesting, right? I mean, Konstantin Sharp has maintained the lead from Mark McCormack in the RSRBG Performance entry, but has not been able to really pull away as we saw guys doing in that entry further on in the race when you had Adam Isaacson in the car, which makes me wonder if McCormack could actually potentially give Konstantin a run for his money by the time this race comes to a close. It's not helping that they're catching lap traffic at some terrible points as well. I mean, at the moment, trying to get around Clemens Babuka in the Awesome Motorsports entry, and Sharp be completely checked up. Look at how much McCormack is able to close in as a result. Sharp is going to need to get by here quickly, or McCormack could potentially get a run into turn 7 here.
Yeah, most definitely could be the case, but Sharp should be going past right now as, Babuka goes to the left side. Also, it's going to let past 2nd place, and maybe Nunes. No, Nunes is actually not going to be able to get past here. Has to stick in behind through the fountain section. So Nunes not going to like that situation right now. 3rd place getting stuck in behind lap traffic. But as we always like to say in endurance racing, the traffic giveth, the traffic taketh.
And this time it gives to McCormack and takes from Sharp. The gap now well under a second for Mark McCormack in the R-Star by G Performance Machine to work his way up and potentially take a race lead away from 5-star Motorsports HyperX entry. They've been doing a great job so far on getting that thing in a consistent position. And we've seen it before. Isaacson and McCormack, they are two of the most consistent drivers you will find out there on the circuit. For the HyperX GT Sprint Series, it's how they put on such a dominant performance to win over at the Barber Motorsports Park. And it's how they almost got wins at Oulton Park as well. Now they're going to be trying to see if they can potentially pick up one here at the Detroit Belle Isle, jumping over the curves a little bit at turn 3, but they are a bit lower down to the ground. You can afford to do that a little bit more, but I wouldn't say it's a habit you necessarily want to get into.
Yeah, most definitely not a habit you want to get into, because just of how dangerous it sometimes can be to, well, lose one position, especially because all of a sudden you can get yourself freight trained as well by more and more constrained pass, because once you start to lose a position and you get off rhythm, well, that most definitely can go through the whole race as well, and you're gonna just find yourself backpedaling all the way throughout.
On board with your current race leader, trying to keep Mark McCormack at bay, catching lap traffic in the form of Aaron Ackles in the Kozar Sim Racing Leo machine, as well as Lyubov Azretov in the Olympus Esports number 46 entries, several laps down. As well as we got Michael Sola in Cube Racing just up the road, has got some fresh damage on the left side of his machine. I believe had a bit of a collision with the Impulse Racing Lamborghini, the 256 car at turn 3 just one lap ago. So McCormack starting to pull that gap a bit more. You can see Sharp has pulled away a bit, but there's a lot of lap traffic up the road that Sharp's gonna have to work his way through.
Yeah, this could be a deciding factor right now in this race for the lead. Yes, it still is 13 minutes to go on the dot, but with so much traffic now in one place, yeah, Sharp, if he gets a good run out of a corner and gets past 2 cars, and Cormac has to stick in behind for them for multiple corners, that could already be the deciding factor. So Sharp right now goes past Aaron Ackles and puts himself in that barrier situation right now. 26 can't go jumping out of the way right here through the fountain section. Very much a one-line situation here. So look at that, McCormack really antsy at trying to get past and in behind. Ronnie Nunes already caught up to the BMW.
And that's something else that McCormack has to defend against as well. There's nothing keeping Ronnie Nunes behind at the moment in the TFR machine. In fact, this lap traffic is only helping for Ronnie Nunes to close in even further in his number 81 TFR Porsche 911. So this could get interesting here if McCormack can't get past this lap traffic quickly. Sharp has already passed the Olympus Esports Porsche just up the road as well. There's so much Porsche traffic in terms of lap traffic to work with. McCormack is pretty much the lone BMW in this mix of Porsches, and also the rest of Sky got pulled down to the inside line, lets everybody on the lead lap through. McCormack still trapped behind Aaron Ackles. He's been stuck behind him for almost a lap now.
Yeah, I should get past right now, right here. Aaron Ackles should be giving the space right now, but actually continues to be on the racing. Very, very interesting driving by Ackles, not deciding to get out of the way, but obviously Michael Sola, the 890 just ahead, that is also 4th position for him. So yeah, stakes are high for the 26.
It's worth noting, though, I do believe IVRA does enforce blue flags. If you hold up the leaders enough, they're going to tell you to let the leaders through. So Aaron Ackles, if he's going to make this spot up on Michael Sola, he's got to make it quick. So you got 2nd, 3rd in the battle here. First place breaks away. 21st and 22nd all to the fight. Oh, the Lamborghini goes wide into the wall. This is a risky situation. A bump and run for Aaron Ackles. Here comes 2nd and 3rd place. Going to go 3 wide entering turn 14. And Ronnie Nunes is through. A brilliant overtake there for TFR, and Mark McCormack tries to find his way to the inside of the Cube Racing Lamborghini. It's not going to happen, though, and tell you what, McCormack has got to be furious at the moment with lap traffic.
Yeah, most definitely getting held up first by the 26 and then has that big kerfuffle with the Lamborghini happening ahead of him, which is being chopped upon by Ronnie Nunes. So Nunes now into second place, as here comes now the pass from Ackles in the background as well. Or does it, as there's another contact and they crash.
Sola goes around, and Aaron Ackles is the result of that one. He'll be up in the 21st place, but it's all falling apart for the Cube Racing 890. Had a spin already in the similar section of the racetrack a few laps ago, and they have another one trying to keep Aaron Ackles at bay. And I have to say, I think this one was a bit on Michael Sola's own doing. You're watching here coming around through turn 4, just runs the Porsche out of room. There's nowhere that he can go.
Yeah, no, it was the similar situation just a few laps ago for that car as well. So yeah, just heavily unfortunate for Aaron Ackles. Did do nothing wrong there, that 26. Just an pretty much innocent bystander to one car, not knowing exactly where on track they are placed. So yeah, hopefully the 26 not too much damage for them, as they now get overtaken also by Andreas Thiel, who has lost the back end of Max Riedmüller by quite a bit, by the way, as well, as that gap now is up to 3 seconds already between Maniti and the 68. And Maniti and the 198W.
I'm going to check in a little bit on Project Dynamic. We haven't talked about your Pro-Am points leaders so far throughout the day. They said all the way down in 18th place for Yannis Albert. He is trying to run down Shane Burke in the Simtech Motorsport entry in the number 7 Audi R8 LMS, and it has not been a good run at all for the Project Dynamic crew today. I talked about earlier about how it just probably wasn't going to be their track today, and that does look like it will be the case. I mean, Albert has just been falling further and further back, and he now finds himself sitting 18th place. That is not a good feeling, considering you started all the way up in P11. You have a clean car, right? That is just overall pace that causes you to lose all this time. And we've also got 12th and 11th goes in here. Impulse Racing. Oh, we're going to make that move up, and I think Marcus Silva for V Racers, you could kind of tell there, Stefan, just pulled aside and let him have it. That's a pro car going on an AM car, and Silva wasn't about to get into a battle he didn't have to.
Yeah, very much so. Great thinking there by Silva to just let them pass and continue on with their race. Maybe get a little bit of draft as well from the Lamborghini down the big backstretch here. So most definitely great done by them, as we are looking now onto the battle for 13th place. Stefan Modde of the DEC Sim Racing Rouge car versus Mac Performance Junior Team Andreas Gisea. Will there be something happening into this turn? No, Gisea is lifting off the throttle.
And this is a battle for Pro-Am positions in the field, so this could get interesting here if this continues to kind of develop the way I think it might. I mean, I do believe this could be, in fact, for the Pro-Am race lead, and in fact, I say that is very much the case. This is for the Pro-Am race lead here in race number 1, so this could get interesting here if this picks up any further. This is for max points, 100 points up for grabs here for Andrea Chiesa, as well as Stefan Mo just up the road with VC Sim Racing Rouge Machine. They're doing a good job to lead the way from Andrea Chiesa for the time being in the 111. The Ferrari, though, looking to put itself on victory lane for the first time this race, looking up the inside of turn 3, and Chiesa going to go through deeper on the brakes for the entry. VC Sim Racing swings wide, gives them the space. That opens up the door for the world of sim racing. 151 BMW to work its way up the inside, but couldn't capitalize on the momentum and follow through with it. So solid pass for Andrea Chiesa to put himself up into the Pro-Am race lead here in this one. Look back to Ronnie Nunes in the TFR entry. Down in second place for the time being. Made I'm going to say this, an opportunistic move 3 wide into turn 14 to get the second place away from Mark McCormick while they were being held up by lap traffic, and that was an unbelievably risky move, and one that I don't think was necessarily very wise, but it did work. I'll give him that. It worked. It's up to second place, but you have to have so much faith on everybody around you to track like this in order for you to even be able to attempt something like that.
Yeah, this could have gone heavily wrong if Ronnie Nunes would have judged the gap wrong, or somebody decided to close that gap and not let him make it 3 wide. Stuff like that obviously can't always happen. So yeah, maybe not the greatest move to do, but as I said, it worked out. Ronnie Nunes has been rewarded by using that amount of risk, and yeah, pretty much carefree now in second place. RSR by G Performance not able to go the pace that Ronnie Nunes has been able to do, and so the gap is now up to, what is that, 2 seconds, and Ronnie Nunes is also catching up to 5-star Motorsport HyperX. The gap now below 1.8 seconds.
So this is on board with Ronnie Nunes, but I don't think he'll be able to get there in time. There's only 4 minutes remaining in this race. That is not a long time if you want to try to make up the spot, right? I mean, you have to make those spots now, and unfortunately, with just 4 minutes left on the clock, I don't think he'll be able to reel in that big gap in time, but who knows, he might be able to find himself on victory lane before the end of the night. You've still got 17th and 18th place that's looking close as well. Simtech Motorsport and Project Dynamic. We're kind of going back and forth a little bit into the fountain section. This is Yannis Albert trying to make his way up past Shane Berg. Lamborghini versus Audi here. And your Pro-Am points leader, definitely not going to be keeping the 100% win streak today, but at least trying to come away with whatever points they can muster.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the best you can do. Just hope for the most amount of points that you can possibly grab. And you know, you have to survive through these kind of races, because you're not gonna be always the best team out there and always gets first place. I mean, just look at our category leaders. They have had a 100% win rate up to this point, and yeah, they basically are nowhere to be found anymore because of early troubles that they had run in. So yeah, just sometimes you have to make the best out of the worst races possible for yourself.
And you can see here is the battle for your AM race lead at the moment. This is the World of Sim Racing team trying to work their way up and past the VC Sim Racing Rouge machine. And I say that this is actually the battle for second place, and not even for AM class. This is between a Pro-Am and an AM car at the moment. So 723 machine currently sitting P2 in the Pro-Am category, and I believe World of Sim Racing might be the furthest driver up within the AM category on the time being. And well, as I say that, I look back up the time screen and see that it's 10th place for the Westwood Areas Esports crew. We haven't talked about them too much this race, have we? But that number 87 Audi, driven by Tim Spesser at the moment, has been on a flying tear at the moment. I mean, 10th place for a car in the AM category, higher up by several seconds than the Pro-Am leaders. That's nothing to be ashamed about, especially, you know, in an AM category car to finish off in the top 10 overall.
Yeah, and quiet races where the commentators don't talk about you a whole lot is also sometimes a very great race, because that means you have stayed problem-free and flown under everybody's radar until all of a sudden they see yourself up there and are surprised by how good you were able to pull off that race.
You see this battle starting to develop here. This is for 4th and 3rd, and that BMW for RSR by G Performance losing ground, and Team RSL by 5-star can smell blood in the water. A minute 20 left to go in this race. And jumping over the curbs is Mark McCormack. It'll be 1 lap to go this next time by, so Remar rapidly running out of time. And the Team RSL by 5-star Audi for the 198 trying to finish this race up on the podium. This would be ideal for Remar to try to get the best possible run that he can. So what can Remar do? Can he have anything for Mark McCormack here as we get set to start this final lap of the race? You ride on board with Max Riedmuller at the moment into the fountain section for the second to last time today. This is a battle for third place that will rage on right down to the wire. How will this one play on out for drives out of the field? 30 seconds left on the clock. There is your race leader coming around through turn 13 now, and out through 14 will be starting his final trip around the Detroit Belle Isle this time by. Swap was made for 14th, 15th place, and VCO Series in Rouge pulled aside, let the AM driver of World of Sim Racing through. Did not want to fight that battle out with an AM car on the final second to last lap for them of the race. So back to Riedmuller. Clock will expire. Riedmuller almost clipping the outside wall that time by. Still has a little bit of time to work his way up to Mark McCormack, but do you think he'll actually be able to get there, Stefan?
The best passing opportunity has passed just now. Audi not as strong through this section as the BMW is, so would be surprised if somehow Riedmuller would be able to get past McCormack.
As they round through turn number 6, out through the longest straightaway we have on the track, this would realistically be the last time a Riedmuller can actually be able to make that move up for the podium, but he is way too far back to have any kind of realistic chance on going for that move. So it's not going to happen this time around. I have a feeling that Riedmuller will have to settle for 4th place here in this race, and who knows, maybe he could go for 3rd in race number 2. Up front, Konstantin Scharf has been doing such a phenomenal job with 5-star Motorsport HyperX machine. The Porsche got out front early and has led the way. We thought Ronnie Nunez might be closing in. That has not been the case. So for Konstantin Scharf, he'll come around through turn 14 and he will win race number 1 here from Detroit. And coming across the line there in the battle for 3rd place, you see McCormack is able to fend off Riedmuller for the 4th position, but ET finishes out in 6th place. And you'll look back now all the way to your Pro-Am points leader coming into today. This is one of the last battles that you have out there on the track that is still yet to be sorted, with just under a lap of racing left for these drivers working their way around to the checkered flag. Can the Lamborghini have anything for the SimTech Motorsport Audi? And Shane Burke going to be trying to keep Yanis Albert at bay, the number 21 car, trying to do everything he can to work his way up and past Shane Burke's number 7 entry, but into the mountain section. This is what we saw happening in the battle for 3rd. He was not close enough that time around to have the look, and it will be a similar story for Project Dynamic. Their 100% win streak comes to a smashing end as Andrea Cesea is going to actually take the race win for Pro-Am in what has been Ferrari's first race win all season long. And it comes in the form of Andrea Cesea in the Mad Performance Junior team. What an absolutely awesome ride for that Ferrari to see them finally up on victory lane. We'll take a look at your official post-race results here. After 41 laps, it was Konstantin Scharf to win the race by 2.4 seconds over Ronnie Nunez. Mark McCormack finishes out the podium with Max Riedmuller down in 4th place. Andreas Thiel is in 5th with Nicholas Schaefer for RSR Primus in 6th place. Team RSL is in 7th with Full Send Racing in 8th. Andrew Dawson for Vector by RSR is in 9th place with one Tim Spesser for the Westwood Racing Esports, bringing it home for the AM class win down in 10th place. 11th holds Marco Jaeger in the Impulse Racing number 11 car. Marco Silva for V Races in 12th, and there is your Magfords Junior Team Pro-Am winners for Andrea Cesea. Down in 13th place, it is World Sim Racing in 14th with VC Sim Racing in 15th. Rusty Spatulas is 16th with SimTech Motorsports in 17th. Project Dynamic, the Pro-Am points leaders, in 18th with Pure Sims Esports in 19th as the last drivers on the lead lap. Impulse Racing's 256 entry down in 20th place. Continuing on, you've got the Kozar Sim Racing down in 21st, the Awesome Motorsport Group in 22nd. Olympus Esports is 23rd. World Sim Racing is 24th with Cube Racing's 890 entry in 25th place. Olympus Esports crashing early, and they'll be finding themselves down to 26th place, 9 laps down, hoping for better in race number 2. BSTV Esports and Ronin Academy rounds out your 28 car field, but it is not over yet, another hour of racing coming up here in about a few minutes here. So it'll be a top 20 inverted field, which of course is going to be putting the Impulse Racing 256, who finished one lap down, on pole position here, Stefan. And that's going to mean that 5-Star Motorsports, so dominant in race 1, they're starting in 20th.
Yeah, gonna be real shake up of the grid, obviously, with the top 20 getting inverted, and that could also mean that all of a sudden we see a podium or top 5 finish from one of the cars that didn't quite make it anywhere close to that, just because of how hard it is to pass at the Detroit Raceway at Belle.
And of course, we do have one driver who has popped on in to give us a bit of a chat over the course of tonight, and it is going to be the driver that started the race off in race number 1, and he brings it home in race, well, he'll have his teammate bring it home in race number 1. Adam Isaacson joins us up here in the booth for the 5-Star Motorsport HyperX entry, and well, Adam, it was a thrilling run for you guys up there in the front. Had some traffic troubles, but at the end of the day, you surpassed all of them to win race 1.
Yeah, it was quite straightforward first in, to be honest. Just took the start. Had quite good pace because we took the 60 liters instead of the 120 to try and pull away at start. And it worked out quite well, I guess. Just got a bit tired at one point there in the second stint. Yeah, worked out quite well.
And of course, you're going to be starting down in 20th place here for race number 2, and with Detroit being such a difficult track to pass at, do you have any particular game plan, or are you just going to try to take every opportunity that you can find?
Yeah, it's obviously it's going to be quite tough starting from 20th, especially here, since it's pretty much impossible to make it, but yeah, we'll just try to pick off as many as we can, and hopefully we'll get far up the field.
Ronnie Nunez for the free racing entry, they were looking to be closing you guys down in the later portions of that race. Do you think you'll be able to manage to keep them at bay throughout all of race 2?
I would hope so. I think in general, I think we have better pace than them, but as I said earlier, we chose not to take mirrors into race 1. So yeah, hopefully we can get him in this one as well.
Well, fingers crossed. You had a great performance in race number 1. Hopefully it'll be the same in race number 2. Thank you for joining us up here in the booth. Congrats on a race 1 win, and wishing you all the best of luck in race 2.
Thank you very much.
That's Adam Isaacson joining us up here in the broadcast booth from the 5-Star Motorsport entry, taking the race win. Of course, he was up there driving for the first stint, wasn't quite able to drive for the second stint because, of course, that fell to his teammate, Constantine Sharp, who brought the thing home for a solid race win tonight. And I want to give one more reminder as well about the HyperX giveaway that is still taking place as always throughout this race, and of course we'll flash that little image up there on the bottom right of your screen, so if you happen to spy that little invention throughout the course of tonight's race, well, you can definitely enter yourself into the giveaway via link in the in the description of the YouTube, or of course in the YouTube chat pinned at the top of there as well. And I want to give a shout out to HyperX as well, the peripheral sponsor for the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series. They are a gaming gear brand committed to making sure every gamer feels that they are included. Their motto is, no matter who you are or what you play, we're all gamers. So need a mouse, headset, keyboard, and more? Well, never fear, HyperX has you covered. You can check out HyperX at hyperxgaming.com. So still waiting for Warm to finish on up here, just under 10 minutes shy. This could be an interesting run throughout the course of this race.
Yeah, could be interesting now with these guys having a little bit of a cool down rather than a warm-up that it is right now. So yeah, gonna be, we've said it a few times now already, but it's gonna be an interesting start to race 2. Obviously, Belle Isle a very, very difficult track to pass at. You have all the bumps, you have all the crests around this track. Even though there isn't much of up and down, there still is a quite few amount of crests around this track. So that is going to make it tricky, especially for your winners of race 1, the number 5, to make their way past 19 cars to find themselves once again on the top step of the podium for race 2.
And usually when we get these reverse grid races, we've been used to seeing, the race leaders already being up into the top 5 from, 20th place on the grid by the end of like lap 3, 4, maybe 5. I honestly don't think that's going to be the case here. I mean, you heard Adam Isaacson talking to us earlier on. I mean, it is such a difficult track to pass on, even with slower traffic. I mean, look at guys like RSR by G Performance. They got caught behind lap traffic for over a lap, and it caused them to lose second place as well over to TFR. So I don't think it's going to be as simple as just working your way through the order. It's going to be a real fight for 5-Star Motorsport to try to take that race lead back.
Yeah, it's going to be a real fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if especially our top 3 runners, top 4 runners even, aren't going to be able to get anywhere close to the positions that they were in before this second race. So in race 1, obviously, not only does first place have to fight through the back end of the top 10 and top 20, but also they will have to fight through second, third and fourth place as well. So that is going to be a big challenge. And now obviously that also means that the cars that were technically behind you, they still had the same pace as you had, especially in the end of the race. First, second, third, fourth, they were pretty much bang on the same lap times for the end of the last 5-6 laps. So that means that 5th place could be a little bit of an upset, and instead of falling back from the guys, they would be all of a sudden able to run away from the rest of them and create themselves quite a big gap to make it happen for them in a race 2.
Let's talk pit strategy, right? We talked about we weren't quite sure what drivers are going to do in race number 1 on such a difficult track to race on, and it ended up being a very split strategy. Obviously, driver changes up and down throughout the grid, except for those usual 1 or 2 drivers that didn't go for the driver changes because they opted to make it their race where they had only 1 guy in the car from start to finish. You have Maniti Racing making this that race here tonight, and that could mean the pit strategy could open up vastly as well. In 5-Star Motorsports, they did not take tires when they came down pit road. Torque Racing did. And I honestly have to say, given the performance from 5-Star, I don't think tires make that big of a difference around a track like this. Not on, just a 30-lap sprint.
Yeah, I mean, tires, it is just that question. Obviously, if you take tires, you are gonna run a big fuel tank at the start, and then on the second stint you have only half of the fuel remaining. If you take fuel, however, you have low fuel both times in your stints, so it is gonna even out. The tire wear really isn't that much of a difference after the race anyway, just because of having that fuel load halved for the guys that take fuel over tires. You can also have a little bit of a split strategy that you take on a little bit of fuel and take tires. That can also be a thing like we have seen for Maniti. He did take fuel and tires. So yeah, it just depends on where do you feel more comfortable. Do you have 2 drivers that are well with the tire wear? That then means that you obviously don't need to worry about the tires, you don't need to change them, but can run twice lighter fuel loads. That means that obviously you're also going to save a little bit more of tires, which means they could potentially go a little bit more aggressive with their inputs, because obviously as said, lighter fuel load means less wear, and that also then again means fast lap time. So it all depends on your driver composition that you have in any certain car, and obviously also depends on what the car does to your tires. That also is a big factor of what you want to go with.
I find it interesting as well just how big a difference it was between taking tires and not changing the driver compared to, not changing tires but changing the driver around. I mean, look at the Team RSO by 5-star, the 198, and Maniti racing in their battle for 5th and 4th place throughout that pit window, right? They come in nose to tail. Maniti led from RSO. Maniti didn't change the drivers, but they changed tires. Team RSO changed the driver, but they didn't take tires. And yet, Team RSO came out in front of Maniti by the smallest of margin, almost nothing between them on pit exit. And despite Maniti being on fresh tires, they never capitalized on it. Team RSO ran away with it on the old rubber, which makes me wonder, had Maniti Racing not taken tires, they just went with the fuel only. Could that battle play out differently? Could Maniti have gotten 4th place in that race?
Yeah, I mean, it really does depend on also if Dahl would have been able to still be on pace of his first stint. Obviously also means the question, would he have been the same pace in the first stint as he was with higher fuel load of taking tires instead of fuel? So many questions. I mean, could also say that because of the lighter fuel load that Maniti would have then had if they would have taken fuel instead of tires, they could have potentially not even be anywhere close to the Team RSO car. So many what ifs are in that hypothesis, so really not worth to go down that rabbit hole.
And now I think it's time we address the elephant in the room, this reversed grid start. Every time, and I say this quite literally, every single time without fail, there has been complete and utter calamity and attrition so crazily throughout the first 3 or so laps of these races as the grid gets itself sorted on out. So I'm going to be honest, I'm going to give this question straight out. How many cars do you think will have damage by the end of lap 1?
Probably, yeah, the top 10 or so will probably have, so 10 or 15 cars will probably have a little bit of damage somewhere around their car. And, it's kind of fun, like the first season which I was part of, driving alongside Alexander Walton back then for Solar Vision Racing. The one race where we ourselves didn't get collected by any calamity in the race start, we actually got to finish in a top 5 position, obviously winning the first race that was at Sandborn, and then getting placed in 20th place. It was great, it was fun, but most definitely it is the most worrisome thing to have starting in 20th place and basically just waiting for the carnage to break out around you and just hoping that you're going to be able to avoid it all.
Of course, you are watching the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series round number 4. First race of the second half of the season here from Detroit Belle Isle. Next time we go racing out for the HyperX GT Sprint Series will of course be over in December. That will be for round number 5 at the Brands Hatch International Circuit. Next time IVRA returns, though, it will be for the 400 kilometers of the Virginia International Raceway, which is round number 3 of the for the IVRA ClubSport Series, and I believe Club Cup will also be racing in that outing as well. So it could be a very entertaining race coming up in just 1 week's time on November the 27th. You can find it all on the same channels you've been finding it before, whether you're joining us here for RaceSpot TV or, of course, at VCO Esports. Want to give a huge shout out to both audiences joining us here tonight. It is a pleasure to be able to have you both out with us here tonight. Let's take a rundown for your starting grid. Here's warm-up wraps up for race number 2. On pole position is the Impulse Racing Lamborghini 256 with the Pure Sims Esports machine. I'm lining it up beside them on the front row for today's 1 hour long race. Down in third will be, of course, Olympus Esports with not having the best of runs thus far. Wait, not 26. Let's start with time screens a little bit. Project Dynamic is in third place with Shane Burke and the Simtech Motorsports down in fourth. As Russ Spatula's in fifth. VZ Sim Racing is down in sixth place with World of Sim Racing in seventh. The Mag Performance Unity team is in eighth. V Races and Impulse Racing round out row number 5 in ninth and 10th with Westwood Racing Esports, current AM class leader and race 1 winners for the AM category, down in 11th place. 12th place place holds Vector by RSR. 13th for Full Send Racing. Team RSL is in 14th. RSR by G Performance is 15th with Meniti Racing down in 16th. Team RSL is in 17th with RSR by G Performance 18th place. Torphy Racing and Race 1 winner overall, 5-Star Motorsports down in 20th. And now for the other drivers further down the order, most of them marked as DNFs, 4 laps down. After race number 1, started off in 21st place is the Kozar Sim Racing number 26 entry. And then, of course, you have got Neo by Awesome Motorsports in 22nd. Olympus Esports is 23rd. They're starting from pit road in the Ferrari. World Sim Racing is in 24th. Cube Racing 25th. Olympus Esports 26th. BSTV Esports and Ronin Academy in 28th place. Pace car about to pull off as we get set to go racing from Detroit once again. The pace car down and in, leaving in the hands of Stefan Waldhorn. The Impulse Racing 256 Lamborghini reverse grid racing. They enter the restart zone. Green flag drops. We are off and away and already fanning out 3 wide. Deeper in the field. It's all kicking off early on here from Detroit Belle Isle. And so far, Impulse has gotten away well, and it's a clean start through turns 1 and 2. The worry here is going to be up into turn number 3. Oh, huge shunt deeper in the field. A tremendous crash from Michael Sola for Cube Racing's 890. And Leo Buffers Artstuff Sky for the Olympus Esports number 46 Porsche. And as well as that, I think World of Sim Racing 2 is collected in that as well. Through turn 3, though, it is all clean and green throughout the field. And so far, it is going to be Pure Sims Esports to lead the way. Made the pass up into turn 3 on Michael Avdaka for the overall race lead as the 116 leads the way out of turn 6. Simtech Motorsport pulls off to the side to allow Rush Spatulas through. Letting VC Sim Racing Rouge through as well. The number 7 Audi R8 LMS and Impulse Racing. Lamborghini has nothing for the number 116 Michael Avdaka through turn 7 this time around. And will there be any more calamities, any more major shunts? Oh, Beniti's gone around. Andreas Thiel sideways in turn number 7. It's all gone wrong for Beniti, who looks set to lose a tremendous points gap that they had starting off the season, but in round number 4, it goes horribly wrong. We'll take another look what happened to Beniti. Got to get a look at what happened to the 46 Olympus Esports machine as well. Out of turn number 2. There's the hit from Beniti into the inside wall.
Yeah, just unfortunate for Maniti. Andreas Thiel there, just a little bit too much curb, getting forced upon it by the V-Racers, Marcus Silva there. And so that's why he decided to spin himself into the concrete wall. Obviously also a lot of damage to the front of his car, as that Ferrari 488 is once again out and away from the pit lane.
And still on replay as well for this Ferrari, making me wonder if there was something that actually happened to the Olympus Esports Ferrari, I believe this was. And nothing that I can necessarily see taking place. The number 64 entry might have been up for the Porsche out of turn number 2 that took place on for the major lap 1 incident. And you can see the Sky in pit road, their race likely over. They're talking about a bad start for Olympus Esports, not having the outcome would have wanted. This is going to be a race weekend for them to forget. So we are clean for most of the field. Actually, that was a remarkably cleaner start than I thought it might have been, to be completely frank with you, Stefan, compared to how it was at previous tracks.
Yeah, most definitely. So a lot of people know what kind of carnage Belle Isle can bring. So apart from the Michael Sola incident, who had herself spin right into Alvaro Martinez del Olmo and Lyubov Ozreskovskaya, who wasn't able to avoid that one, seems to be all pretty clean, surprisingly.
Ted Lowendig losing out on so many positions, just lost out on about 6 in one corner just because of overall pace. And Lowendig's been spun around the 171 with some major
Oh my goodness, that's our leader.
What has happened here? Rainbow, the drivers that were 4th place in race 1, and something had to have broke on the 171. I mean, take a look at this here. They started all the way back in the fountain section. And you'll take a look at it here. I'm at a loss for words. Just got run over.
Yeah, just as you said, got run over by Nunes, I think that was. It was Ronnie Nunes who runs over the Vector car up ahead of him, and then the other guy's not able to avoid that roadblock whatsoever. Great avoidance though by the cars screaming into the incident there as well. Could have been a lot worse for the 2 Porsches and BMW that went through that as well.
Okay, I've seen what has happened and why Lundick was so slow. He clipped the wall in turn 7 and knocked the suspension out. That's why he was so slow, and that's what caused that major checker that resulted in about a 4 or 5 car spin. So that was not even reverse grid related. That was just misfortune as to where he got the damage from, at what point he was at in the field. So with all of this now considered, VEC Sim Racing rocketing away from the field as now several seconds of the Impulse Racing Lamborghini. You got your Pro-Am points leader Project Dynamic just tucked in behind. The currently sitting in 3rd place. Dynamic looking for the inside of turn 1. No room though. Maybe up for turn 3 if you get a good drive out of turn number 2 here down this straightaway, but I don't think he'll be quite close enough.
Yeah, actually goes to the inside.
Oh, making that work. Oh, no, he's not. Spinning the car around, backs it into the tire barrier. Heads up, watch out, everybody. And it looks like, oh, no, don't rejoin yet. That was Marcos Silva, the V-Races BMW that slammed into Ibrahim Alio's Project Dynamic Lamborghini, and that was not a rejoin. I think that'd be worthy of a highlight reel. Inside, too deep on the brakes, just losing on entry, clipped the curb and backs it into the wall, and everybody's coming through. You can see on the right-hand side, cars coming around. I mean, why? Why would you try that?
Well, the good thing is, though, he got spun around quite quickly into the right direction of the track. With that hit to his right side. And do we have more calamity right here? Oh, that's a Ferrari going sideways.
That was Andrea Cizea, the Pro-Am winner, the driver that brought home a first Pro-Am win for Ferrari and a first IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series win for Ferrari in any class all of this season. Oh, Blome looking for the inside of the VC Sim Racing Rouge machine. This is the battle for 6th place. Looking for no room for the BMW. Has to back out. He'll have the overspeed on. Look at how much better of a drive he got through turn 2. Close up the Ferrari. There's going to be nothing that Cizea could do to defend against this one. Going to try to squeeze BMW out to the left-hand side. You got to leave room, though, for him. And going around the outside line, I think Blome had to back out there, or that would have been a wreck.
Yeah, that could have been a very costly right there. So good choice to back up. But here comes Nebelsieg to the inside of Blome and makes it perfectly down for the Audi 197. So Cedric Nebelsieg now the first chaser of Andrea Chiesa.
Yeah, Nebelsieg was looking for the inside line all the way up for turn 5 and then forced the issue. I mean, I think Aymeric Blome kind of called Nebelsieg's bluff there, thought he wasn't going to go for it. Nebelsieg turns out was not bluffing in the slightest. Now he's running down the Ferrari, who is definitely slower than Nebelsieg, as they had about 40 seconds separated them on track at the end of race number 1. So Nebelsieg is going to have to make really short work here of Cizea if he wants to try to run down Shane Burke in the Simtech Motorsports number 7 Audi a little further up the road. And the Matt Foreman's junior team, Ferrari does clip the wall out of turn 13. That lets Nebelsieg get up the inside, and he'll make that dive on board. Oh, and it's a hip check and a bumper from Cizea to the back end of Nebelsieg's Audi. And now Cizea in the Pro-Am car trying to fight back against the Pro drivers. Stewards are not going to be pleased with that one, especially since that's a Pro-Am car giving the bumper to an Pro car trying to go around the outside line. Here comes Aymeric Blome up the inside. This is for the Pro-Am race lead here, but the Ferrari going to pull ahead for now.
Yeah, and right behind that also is Sean Campbell of the RSR Performance car. That is also the car that we are driving on board with right now. So a major hold up for Sean Campbell. Most definitely not something he has been looking forward to, but at this point he has already gained 9 positions to find himself in 9th from 18th.
You see this battle for 8th place raging on. You're looking on board for the back of Aymeric Blome for a moment in the VC Sim Racing Rouge machine. It's worth noting there's also another battle just up the road for 3rd place as well. Stefan Walder in the Impulse Racing 256 has been holding up a lot of this train here. He's got Russ Dispatches just behind him, along with the SimTech Motorsports number 7. Nebelsiek has found his way through on the Ferrari, now tries to run down 5th place. Zalaka's tried to find the inside that time around and walled her through turn 1, but wasn't going to happen that time around. Maybe turn 2, you'll have the draft run down that front straightaway.
Yeah, but maybe he doesn't have the speed, as he is still about equal distance back from where he did start in this lap. Obviously Nebelsiek is now also starting to really close in on this fight for 3rd place, hoping to make quick moves on all of these guys to find himself into 3rd place. And it's not too far up ahead to Hagenstein and Ed of F. Dorka, but still a long ways to go, so hasn't the need for a rush right now. Sean Campbell, meanwhile, still being stuck in behind in 9th place. So he can't find the way through on the VEC Sim Racing Rouge, just like Nebelsiek was able to do.
And speaking of Cedric Nebelsiek, Team RSL has found the back end of the SimTech Motorsports entry up in 5th place. You can see them just up the road as you took that brief ride on board with Sean Campbell of RSR by G Performance. So Nebelsiek is there, right on board with Nebelsiek now for Team RSO, closing up to Shane Burks, number 7, just up the road. You got the 1-1-2 for Rusty Spatulas as well as Stefan Waldher. The Impulse Racing 2-5-6, and who's going to blink first? Who's going to send the move up the inside? Is there going to be a pass potentially for turn 1? Nebelsiek thinking about it, lunging for it up the inside of the Audi. Can't make it work though, no momentum. Trying to go over under through turn 2 and down the stretch between 2 and 3. It's the best pass opportunity we've seen on the track so far. Nebelsiek's going to look for it, and how about that? SimTech Motorsports backing off to let him have it.
Yeah, not surprised that SimTech decides to let him have it right there. He is much faster than them, and quite honestly, they're not really fighting for that position. Yes, they might be right now in 5th place, but they very much know that it isn't going to be too long until they are starting to plummet ever so slightly down the order. So why fight right now when you can still be able to create a little bit of a gap to the faster cars in behind?
You see Rusty Spatula still trying to find a way around. Impulse Racing's 2-5-6 entry, and that Lamborghini has been holding this entire train up here. You can tell, I mean, look at 3rd place all the way back to, at this point, 9th, and potentially even 10th, 11th, and 12th if it doesn't get sold here soon. That is an overtaking spot that Nebelsiek just forced the issue in, and I never thought I'd see something actually work in turn 10.
Well, it didn't work because Jan Siliakos had to turn out of that corner to not make contact with Nebelsiek. So once again, a highly aggressive move by a faster car on a slower car. Yeah, wouldn't be surprised if the Rusty Spatulas would try to do something against that move.
Sean Campbell going alongside the Ferrari further in the back. Mag Performance Junior team under fire from RSR by G Performance, and the Pro-Am Ferrari going to have to yield to Sean Campbell. Sean Campbell deeper on the brakes. That leaves Shane Burke to try to get past the Pro-Am Ferrari and the race 1 winner. Tell you what, for Andrea Cizea, it's been a great run so far for himself, trying to maintain that 6th place, being a Pro-Am car, and being up in 6th place for this long, almost a quarter of the way into this race. That is not a bad result at all, considering he was all the way down in 13th place earlier on in this race. And also, don't forget, up front, you got that battle for 3rd place. Still looking to rage on between Impulse Racing and Team RSO. That gap has been closing. Does Nebelsiek force the issue here at turn 10 again? I think that'd be a bit of a silly move to try it twice in a row, and he's not going to go for it this time around, but maybe turn 1?
Well, he is rather close, so Nebelsiek might be able to try something in turn 1. Has to have a good last corner though. And yeah, it was a good corner, but a better one from Stefan Walter right now. Now comes the draft in through the last corner of this track. But Walter thus far able to go the distance, but a deep turn 1 for him that might open up the door for Nebelsiek into turn 3. Draft comes in now as well. And Cedric might be set for the 3rd place right here.
sending it down the inside of turn 3. Impulse Racing bails. Oh, Nebelsic flirting with the grass left-hand side, but he's through to third. And now Nebelsic is set to run away with a final podium position here in this race. So Volver is going to be falling back now. The Impulse Racing Lamborghini going to be in the clutches now of Rusty Spatula's 112 BMW. Just behind them, you've got Sean Campbell still waiting in the wings.
Yeah, Sean Campbell has to make quick moves now on these two, because Nebelsic, that will be his main rival for the win. If he's able to also make quick, decisive moves right now, right here, this might be the battle to look out for the race win.
Andrea Cizea overshot turn number 7, went deep, allowed the Simtech Motorsport Audi through, but has checked up the VC Simmers and Rouge machine as a result. You can see that raging on deeper in the field. That is now the battle for 8th place further back. So Cizea starting to show some chinks, the strong armor of that very green Ferrari. And you can see VC Sim Racing driven by Aymeric Blom trying to find some kind of way through. Wants to make short work here and see if he can maybe put himself up and steal a Pro-Am win away from the Ferrari that was so good in race number 1 today. Up for Sean Campbell, battle for 5th place. Between himself and Rusty Spatulas, looks out, dives it for the inside into turn 3. Easy overtake there for Sean Campbell to make that one up. Given room by Rusty Spatulas to make that one work. And how about further in the back, Arzon by Primus under fire from Openkowski for Westwood Racing Esports, and almost getting turned by the Audi just behind as well. We got Cizea just up the road as well in the Mag Performance Junior Team 111 machine under fire from the VC Sim Racing 723. Oh, that's a huge block for the 723. Nowhere to go. And that was a bit of an opportunistic move for Blom to try to force the issue on the inside line, but Cizea holds his ground. Never left the door fully open despite Blom trying to kick it open with a battering ram.
Yeah, that could have ended in tears if Blom had tried to go for the move on Chiesa, but thankfully decided against it, especially because of how weird that braking zone is for the first corner of the fountain section. Has that left kink in the braking zone or just before, depending on what car you drive and how you have to brake for it. And then also you have that apex that is about halfway into the track itself, so you really have to be careful, especially if you're coming from all the way from the right side.
The Impulse Racing Lamborghini loses out to Rusty Spatulas. The number 112 BMW got the run up through turn 2 down to 3, and further in the back you see another swap for positions. That was for 11th place RSR by G Performance, and for Primus up the inside of the World of Sim Racing crew in the 151. A lot of BMWs in these battles are about 6th on back to the 12th or 13th positions. Like every other car in this mix is a Beamer. Showing that despite this track not being suited to the BMWs, right? I mean, it is still a fantastic car. Whoa, and a huge launch that time for Blom, and he was done waiting. Oh, Chiesa not done fighting, though. Up the inside again at turn 8, and gonna punch his way through. Here comes RSR by Primus now. The 68 BMW trying to find the outside line of 11. Not gonna happen, though. Maybe over-under for Blom up to 12, but there's no space for him to make that one work. Oh, he's gonna try it though. Sends one down the inside. 723. Once, twice. Oh, checks it up. Gets in the World of Sim Racing, and the Westwood Racing Esports out and caught up as well. Oh boy, talk about it all kicking off, and all of that stemmed from VC Sim Racing, centered an almighty dive up the inside turn 7. Now trying to give the bump and run to RSR by Primus.
Yeah, Øystein Herford also was part of that whole check up there. So even he now has some front end damage to that BMW, and Aymeric Blom is gonna try to look a little bit into Niklas Schäfer, but not gonna happen. So probably Schäfer finally has that position secured.
I think finally Chiesa can breathe just a little bit up the road, and That 1-1-1 Ferrari was looking like it could be under some serious pressure earlier on, but that late move from RSR by Primus to work his way up past the VC Sim Racing machine actually really helped out the Mag Performance Junior team and helped them to get their way through up into the AM class lead once again. Wouldn't that be something, right? I mean, you go from having a pretty miserable season all season long to taking 2 wins in Detroit in a Ferrari. That's something. And throughout all of this, you got Full Send Racing at the tail end of the straight. They're just kind of biding their time, haven't they? But they're just sitting back, taking a nice and easy for themselves. And here Fjord is doing a good job in the Full Send Racing 96 BMW to just tuck it in line and wait for these guys to make more mistakes, continue to battle a bit harder up the order. And sooner or later, one of those battles is going to boil over, and it'll mean free spots for the 96. So you got Benjamin Openkowski in the mix of this as well. Here you ride on board with Shane Burke at the Simtech Motorsport entry for the number 7 car. Running, up in the 7th position here, I'd say very least in the number 7 car. So I was correct on that one. Kind of getting numbers confused a little bit here. Shane Burke and the Simtech Motorsport crew is doing a good job to work his way up to Impulse Rate, the 256 car. Thinking about having to go on defense once again, and Walter started this race up on pole position and has not gone his way so far. Has only been slipping backwards, but that is to be expected in a reverse grid race. On board with Openkowski at the moment for the Westwood Racing Esports crew in that AM category. Won the first race for the AM class, trying to see if they can pick together a race 2 win as well. And they're trying to close up to the World of Sim Racing team for the 151 BMW. Oh, and World of Sim Racing hits the wall. That could open up the door for Openkowski to have a look. Oh, outside line through turn 14. That would be a risky move, especially coming around for turn number 1. And they're not going to force the issue that time by backing off to allow World of Sim Racing to get out in front. I think that was a wise move there. Don't want to force the issue outside around turn 1. That is definitely one that doesn't usually pay off.
Yeah, and meanwhile also Niklas Schäfer got past Andrea Chiesa for 8th place. So
Too deep for Openkowski into the runoff of turn 3. And here you see another firm battle up the road. The 7 car under fire as well. Gets past Impulse Racing's 256 Lamborghini, so everything is kicking off here all at the same time. I think Impulse Racing might have just backed off, to be honest, and allowed Shane Burke to take that spot up.
Actually, we might want to see a replay of that pass from the number 7, because that was aggressive, but the good kind of aggressive from Shane Burke.
There's Openkowski going way too deep into the run. I think you can kind of tell right from the get-go was not going to make that corner too deep on the brakes and into the runoff area. Always have to keep track of where your car is, especially if you're in the draft. On board with Andrea Chiesa. And we'll see what the 111 can do in his bid to try to pass up now the VC Sim Racing Rouge machine. That pass was completed into turn 7 last time by. This time in much cleaner fashion than the last time it was attempted. And so Blum is going to be doing whatever he can to keep Chiesa at bay, but I think it will be an easy run for the VC Sim Racing Rouge machine, to be completely frank, in keeping the Mag Performance Junior team at bay. I mean, that Pro-Am Ferrari, shall we say, has not had the strongest of runs so far in this race. He's been kind of slipping a little bit so far. He does, of course, have quite a bit of front-end damage that he is struggling with thus far. A little bit of rear end damage too, which, you know, that obviously is not helping the performance of that car. How about this for an overtake though? 5-Star Motorsports on the move up the inside of World of Series. We have not talked about your Race 1 Pro winners overall too much this race so far, Stefan. They have not had an easy time working their way back up through the field. And we talked about this with Adam Isaacson in between races 1 and 2, right? They thought it would be a hard run, trying to work their way up. They'll take whatever spots they can get. And they have just worked their way up into 11th place now, and just now trying to threaten the top 10. We're not even halfway through. I don't think they're going to be able to go for the double here today.
Yeah, no, especially with them being part of that big kerfuffle at the start of this race. I would be very surprised if they'd be able to get anywhere close to the top 5 anymore. Still, it is surprising that they managed to get back up to 11th place right now. So, somewhat lucky that they can still race, if you are honest about how that incident looked from their perspective.
And now you, of course, have got Stefan Walter in the Impulse Racing 256 still looking to battle it out with Sim10 Motorsports' Shane Burke just up the road for 6th place. And further behind is RSR by Primus in that looming 68 BMW M4 GT3 machine that Stefan Walter has been keeping an eye on, no doubt, in his mirrors, and closed up even more this time around into turn number 7. So RSR by Primus has been applying some steady pressure to Impulse Racing, and on cue, pit window is open, and now we can see drivers potentially starting to come down pit road. You wonder if anybody's going to come down this first time around just to take that pit stop, get it over with. That usually isn't the case, though.
Yeah, it usually isn't the case, and you know, for these guys, whether they want to have that undercut or not, it just depends on how the driver feels right now in the car. If they're comfortable right now, even though they might have a little bit of damaged car, it still can be a good thing to go into pit lane and have a fresh driver try to do something better. Or maybe just let it sit out and, you know, hope for better days in your fighting. Just like RSR decided to do the 68 in pit lane like we saw. So that might just be an interesting call here from Niklas Schäfer and Valiokas.
We also got the World of Sim Racing team that came down to pit road as well in the 151. They were in 13th place before this. So Victor Iruello, Garrido going to be into the machine for the 151 BMW now. He is off and away. We ride on board with Michael Evdock at the moment for the Pure Sims Esports crew, currently leading the way just in behind. And Chiesa having a bit of a struggle as well in the 111 machine. Just got passed up by Konstantin Schar for the 5-star Motorsport HyperX entry. The number 5 Porsche going through on the Pro-Am Ferrari down to the turn number 7, I believe that was. So more and more drivers are going to be opting to come down over these next few minutes. Rusty Spatula staying out for the time being. Will any of these guys in this battle for 7th on back be coming down pit road, or are they going to be opting to stay out? Looks like the majority looking to stay out. First one to come in from behind is Full Send Racing's 96. On track, you got the Mad Performance Junior team looking to continue to close up into the gap left by 5-star Motorsport HyperX. Has the drafting run. Does he look for the inside? That is a wise move, Mr. Chiesa. Stay in behind. That is, of course, your Pro Class Race 1 winner. Wouldn't want to be the guy that gets on 5-star Motorsport's bad side at the moment.
Yeah, not at all, because that could end just a little bit bad if you decide to get at with them in a little bit of a wrong fashion.
And you look back up now to the Pure Sims Esports machine. The 116 has been leading the way so far in this race and still opting to stay out. So Evdoka looking to run this stint long, as 2 minutes now away from halfway here in race number 2, excuse me. We've already finished off race number 1. Neville's about staying out. So is Campbell. So far, nobody, I think, from your top 5 opting to come down just yet. Unless Red Spatula's options come in, they have not. So the top 5 continue to stay out here in this one. Impulse Racing's 256 entry, though, is down to the pit road. Very late call for them to make that journey down to the pit lane. throughout the mix of this as well, you still got these drivers starting to split out a little bit more amongst themselves up there out on track, right? I mean, I think this is going to be a case that we're used to seeing here in race 1. We saw it in race 1, we're seeing it again in race 2. You know, it's all going to split apart a little bit more with these pit windows in, with everybody coming in as they, at their own leisurely pace so far, very spaced out across the entire 10 minutes. And that can be a good thing, right? It allows these guys to stay out there in some cleaner air, get some extra time down, allows us to take a little bit more of a breather. And who knows, those battles, we've seen them before. They have all the potential in the world to come to a head well after the pit stops are finished.
Yeah, because, you know, with these pit stops, you don't just, you know, take fuel or take new tires, but there's also a new driver that is going to be able to take the charge on. And so the dynamics in battles can most definitely change. First, you're under pressure, maybe by the guy behind you. You go into pit lane at the same time, you come out ahead of them again. But just because you took another tank of fuel and switched the drivers, or took tires and switched the drivers, all of a sudden you're going to be able to drive away from them. Just because your second driver is much more comfortable than you, or just simply faster than you are. So many gains and mistakes can still be made in the second half of this race.
Andrea Chiesa is in for the Bang Performance Junior team of the 111 Ferrari. And we'll be seeing him hopping out of the car, and it'll be Matteo Carbonari to enter the car. 111 driver of Carbonari had started race 1 in the car. He'll be ending race number 2 in the car. So this could potentially be an interesting run. We saw Carbonari put together a stellar performance in race 1. Who knows? Maybe he could work that car up another couple of positions here in race 2. And exits pit road right by the World of Sim Racing team, driven by Garrido at the moment. So that's a tight spot to be pinned in, as Pure Sims making the trip down the pit road this time by. And looks like the Bang Performance Junior team going to have to tuck in line behind World of Sim Racing. And I'll give them that. They tried to defend that one. They really did. They tried their absolute hardest to keep World of Sim Racing behind on the exit of turn 2 as they exited pit road. But when you're the guy exiting the pit road, you have to yield the guys in front of you, right? I mean, you can try to throw it out the inside, but I mean, more often than not, they're not going to give you any room to work with.
Yeah, pretty much. Was a good fight to try to stay ahead, but they had to concede that in the end. Now, once again, the pit stops are on. More driver changes are happening for the last portion of this race. Still 28 minutes to go, so only 3 more minutes until everybody has had to have their mandatory pit stop served.
And of course, this pit window will be closing in 3 minutes time. So everybody's going to be coming in that has not come in already, at least over these next 1 or 2 laps. You saw a big gaggle of cars currently in the pit roads. Everybody else that has not come down yet will be coming down, I would imagine, either this or the next time by. Those are your only 2 opportunities to be able to get these pit stops served. And you do get penalized, it's worth noting, if you don't come in that pit window. Battles on for 13th and 14th place on track at the moment. Impulse Racing's 256 trying to keep 5-Star Motorsports at bay. That's not going to go anywhere, though. The 5-Star Motorsports crew fresh out of pit road. They are going to make up 1 spot more on Impulse Racing. We talked about the Ferrari earlier on that was trying to defend against World of Sim Racing. Didn't happen this time, though. 5-Star Motorsports in the Porsche defended exiting the pits. They made it stick.
Yeah, made it stick very nicely as well, but now they once again are under pressure here. So Isaacson has to be careful, because Rhino-Ina, I think that Impulse Racing 256 is looking heavily racy.
And showing no signs of backing down yet, so you know that's a fight that's going to be going down right into the pit road. And speaking of guys on pit road, Westwood Racing Esports, the AM class winner in race 1, is down and in. So is the VC Sim Racing Rouge machine. Stefan Mode hops into the car for 723, and Tim Spesser hops in for the number 87 car down the order. So You got a few more drivers coming on down into the pits. The 723 off and away clean through his pit stop. Same story with Tim Spesser in the Audi R8 LMS. Look back up now to Rainer Wiener in the Impulse Racing 256, trying to run down Adam Isaacson still in the 5-star Motorsports HyperX machine. Now they are back up inside the top 10, or battling for the final spot inside the top 10. But just behind Impulse, I think he's got a much more pressing threat he's got to worry about, and that is the World of Sim Racing team driven by Victor Irela Garrido, who has been looking to potentially close that gap. He's been doing so for the past little while. He's been consistently quicker by several tenths.
Yeah, really has to be careful, because last lap 7/10 in favor of Garrido over Vina, so Rainer might just be in trouble of losing that 12th place now as well to the World of Sim Racing team here. Thankfully though, Matteo Carbonari is a little bit off of the back of Garrido, so he wouldn't be in immediate danger of losing another spot after the pass from Garrido. That probably will happen sooner rather than later.
Further behind, Matteo Carbonari for the Mag Performance Junior team under fire from the Full Send Race 96, driven by Leon Erger at the moment. The number 96 BMW has been looking to close on in and actually put the Ferrari under fire as well. Medici Racing you see in pit road on the left-hand side as well, and Erger thought about inside turn 1 this time by. Nothing doing to, whoa, the Ferrari way up onto the grass in turn 2, trying to carry as much speed as possible, but that's only going to work the door wider for the BMW to work his way around the inside line, tucks around, and that'll be a lunge up the inside for Full Send Racing. The Ferrari trying to fight the long way around, but just no speed around the outside line. Not around turn 3, my friend. It hasn't worked before in this race, not about to work now, so Mag Performance Junior team loses another place. That puts them down to 12th now on the grid, as Erger works his way up into 11th.
Yeah, and Leon Erger is gonna be not too far behind the World of Sim Racing team anytime soon, because he has shown tremendous pace over the last few laps. Being stuck behind Mag Performance also was one of those situations where it was only a question of time until he was able to get past, and so he most definitely was in the end. Up in front though, as speculated, Garrido did catch finally back up to the back of Rainer Wiener. So that Impulse Racing 256 now under quite some pressure from the Iberian.
You see Impulse Racing's Lamborghini is still looking to hold on to a top 10 at the moment. Garrido still working that World of Sim Racing BMW around to try to pick up a 10th place finish. On the pit window, by the way, has closed. So expected pit stops are done and dusted for tonight's race. Wide through turn 3 is VC Sim Racing Rouge machine driven by Stefan Mode just up the road. That almost opened up the door for Wiener to find his way up the inside of the 256, and Mode could have an interesting run to the VC Sim Racing machine, but it's two BMWs with a Lamborghini in the middle, and that Lambo is looking to fight big time for any spot they can get at the moment.
Yeah, it's looking quite racy, but it most definitely seems like they don't have right now the speed for the overtake on Mode. However, as said, Garrido is starting to really put on the pressure now onto the back of that Lamborghini Huracan, and Leon Erger continuing to be faster now than the 3 cars ahead of him. About a second, 1.3 seconds.
Missing the apex turn 12 for VC Sim Racing. That opened up the door wide open for Impulse Racing to find his way through, and now opens up the door for World of Sim Racing to make the run up around turn 14, and they're through as well. So VC Sim Racing loses 2 spots in just 1 lap, and in fact about 3 corners. So tell you what though, very, very lucky for VC Sim Racing that they kept that thing out of the wall. That could have been so much worse. At the end of the day, I think every team on this grid here will take 2 lost spots over a car in the wall.
Yeah, most definitely. Especially if it's such a fast portion of the track like the last 3 turns is. So Stefan Motte very lucky there to not put his BMW M4 into the wall there. But this also means that Leon Irga now on the back of his car. So Motte in danger of losing another car to Leon Irga. So Stefan Motte in just a span of 1 lap might lose himself from 8th place all the way down to 11th, but at least for now going into the fountain section still holds that last spot inside the top 10. Oh, and another missed apex there for Motte. Turn 14, really not the strong suit for the BC Sim Racing Rouge car. But at least for now keeps it all clean, keeps it together, maybe starting to get a little bit tired. He is. Maybe it has been already a long day for the Frenchman, just like for myself. This is the 8th hour of commentating that I have been doing now in the span of this day, so I'm also starting to lose a little bit of grip here. But Motte most definitely not at least yet losing the grip of that top 10.
You see now that Full Send Racing car has been slowly working its way up through the order. It is now really threatening the top 10 here, and you called it right. I mean, BC Racing missing turn 12 twice in 2 laps. That's bad news, and sure enough, Full Send Racing will capitalize on the lost time as a result up the inside of turn 6, and Full Send Racing is through for P number 10. Look up front, battle for 3rd for a brief moment. There you see Full Send Racing with a completed pass now. BC Racing falling back down to 11th place. How about Eric Grove? You're right on board with the back end of the number 116 Pure Sims BMW. And there is Mark McCormick for RSR by G Performance. Now, Pure Sims and RSR, how many times, Stefan, have we seen these 2 BMWs duking it out on the track? Barber, Oulton Park, and now Detroit as well. This could get hairy.
Well, the good thing is with how many battles that they have had already, they most definitely know each other, where they are strong, where they're weak. They most definitely know all the ins and outs of their driving styles, where they prefer to be more aggressive, where they prefer to be a little bit less aggressive. And RSR by G Performance, at least right now, has the speed on Eric Grove, because last lap alone 8/10 were in favor of the RSR by G Performance car. So McCormick, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they are able to get quite quickly past Eric Grove.
It's only a matter of time, and you've got 18 minutes to work with. I mean, that is plenty of time. Estimated 12 laps still on the clock. McCormick can take all the time he wants in getting this pass done. So we'll watch that battle. We'll also watch Matteo Carbonari. Whoa, up the inside of Full Send Racing. Full Send Racing having their moves used against them. That was an overtake and a half down for turn 7. Didn't expect that late of a dive bomb from the Ferrari, but that puts him back up. That is, of course, a battle for position. So the Ferrari back up, and holy cow, look out. And BC Racing looking to take that spot right back. For 3rd place as well, by the way, McCormick has caught up to 2nd place driver. Made a look for the inside of the Pure Sims Esports BMW. Thought he might dive for it, opted against it, but look at how close he's able to follow through these corners. McCormick is very clearly the quicker of these 2 drivers.
Yeah, much quicker, and seems like he also still has the tires to be able to follow this quickly. Now, obviously, aero wash not as effective as in the open wheel categories, but you still can feel aero wash even in GT3 cars, so he has to be careful to not use up his tires too much, especially for the harsh braking sense that is turn number 7.
Always have to keep your wits about you. These looming walls, they can definitely catch you out if you focus too much on the driver in front or behind. You race the track as much as you race everybody around you. Here at Detroit, and at the moment, Eric Grove is having to do both with his hands full. And even McCormick at the moment, starting to get his hands full as well. He's been trying to pass Grove for a while now. And he is, you know, kind of within the clutches of Robin Haas with the Team RSO 197 Audi as well. You can see just behind them, the 4th place, less than a second away. So if McCormick gets held up and makes any kind of mistake, oh, and he makes a mistake there, turn 2 wall. Can you say commentator's curse? Holy cow. Slamming the wall, exit of turn 2. That's bad news for McCormick, who will no doubt be feeling that one. And Robin Haas for Team RSO could look to capitalize the result of that one here, especially if this battle ends up going side by side.
Yeah, hopefully he didn't knock out his steering wheel there a little bit, because that can most definitely happen. I mean, it wasn't the hardest hit to the wall, it was also quite a planted hit as well. So hopefully Mark Cormack is not going to feel any difference to his behavior of the car.
And through the fountain section for the 30th time here in race number 2, 15 minutes left to go. We'll watch the battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. You've also got this battle going on further down the order for 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th. Matteo Carbonari heads the way for the Magna Junior team in that battle further down the order. We look back up to the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd. All of these battles looking to pick on up as this race goes on. You ride aboard with Robin Haas with the Team RSO 197 Audi trying to close the gap. He has got a front row seat to watch McCormick's charge in an effort to try to take away second place from Eric Grove in the Pure Sims Esports 116. McCormick closing with the draft, and Haas breaking the draft himself that time by not wanting to get caught out in the braking zone. And now it is a 3-horse race for 2nd place.
Yeah, and for Eric Grove and Pure Sims Esports in total, a 1/6 team, they did start in 2nd place, so they are still exactly where they started in the 2nd race. It really shows how much bad luck they had in that first race to finish in 19th place, but still show great pace at least in the 2nd race and show what they are exactly worth.
Westwood Racing Esports pulled aside, let Maniti Racing through in the battle further down the field. Of course, that's just an AM car, letting the pro car through. Nothing special there. Just, thought it should be mentioned that there was a small swap in the order of that battle further down the field. You will continue with this battle for 4th, 3rd, and 2nd. Definitely, arguably, the more important of those 2 battles we got going on around the track. You've got yourself 3 pro cars looking to duke it out for podium positions, and Grove is under fire big time by Mark McCormack, a driver who we have seen before is not afraid to put his nose where it needs to be, even if that means an incredibly risky overtake. He's done it before. I think we can expect him to do it again. Taking a shallower turn 1, but that gets him the run for turn 2, though. Keeps it on the wall just barely. Has the drafting run down for 3. Is he close enough for a lunge this time by? Looking for the inside, going for it, but not close enough. Forced to back out, and the Torque catches him out. Now under fire from RSO and Robin Haas just behind in the 197 Audi. And so Robin Haas forced to back out for the time being, and we'll see Mark McCormack start to potentially lose ground to Eric Grove of the Pure Sims Esports machine just up the road. You've got Team RSO and the 197 Audi still looking strong behind, and his Audi R8 LMS trying to charge podium position. How about Maniti Racing up past VEC Sim Racing, up now into 12th place deeper in the field. That pass made up into turn number 3. Now all over the back end of Matteo Carbonari in the Mag Performance Junior Team Ferrari, and I have a feeling here Carbonari is not going to want to move out of the way.
Yeah, I feel so as well. These guys are in for a fight, and that fight probably will stay to the end of this race.
See Carbonari trying to keep Teal in behind him in the battle for 11th place, the first spot outside of the top 10. Battle for 2nd still raged on. This time Grove is on defense from turn 2 down to 3. You've got all these various battles looking to pick on up throughout this race as you take a ride on board of the back of the VCO Series machine, and there is Eric Grove, who still stays in front of McCormick for now, but they got alongside in the braking zone of 3, but McCormick was held at bay. Eric Grove with the Pure Sims Esports IVRA machine, the 116. Getting a bit closer that time by losing more time through 6, and McCormick nearly sent Eric Grove around for a bit of a run through the spin cycle there that last time by through turn 6. No move being made for 7th as a result of him kind of missing the corner. He will not get the run that he needed down that front straightaway, but Robin Haas got a great run instead, and he is now going to do everything to try to push up through the fountain section, coming to 10 minutes to go in just a few seconds. Oh, there's a one from Marceau! That's not going to work that time by. It worked earlier, but that's not going to work on McCormick. He's not about to let you have that one work.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say that Hasse was a little bit lucky that he wasn't more alongside McCormick, because that could have ended extremely badly for the team. RSO 197, and now they're also quite ways behind once again, so that dive really didn't do them any favors.
Kind of lost McCormick a lot of time. Here's a battle we haven't talked about too much. How about Adam Isaacson working his way through the order, having to go up against Rusty Spackless at the moment. He'll have to fight the long way around here. Oh, gives the bumper through turn 14, and that convinces Spackless to give it up and let him through. So Isaacson getting the gloves, or taking the gloves off, it would seem.
Yeah, most definitely does seem, or maybe it was just the Rusty Spatulas. They're already lifting. Yeah, it was. So the Rusty Spatulas actually already did lift there, and Isaacson did not expect it. That's why they had that little bit of a fun moment. Not intended by either, but at least nothing too bad happening for them. As once again we look at a battle for 12th place. Carbonari taking once again to the defensive side, and Mode still can't find that way past.
VC Sim Racing has been looking to get past this Ferrari for the better part of the second stint, has just been stuck behind him, and he has been making that Ferrari as wide as possible. Carbonari has been doing such a great job on defense here to keep his Pro-Am and Am competitors in behind him for 12th, 13th, and 14th. He has not been able to find a way by, and I have a feeling at this point that Mode might not be able to find a way through. I mean, Carbonari has just been so flawless, really, on defense that if you can't get by before, I mean, you might only lose time. In fact, he has lost a bit of time this last lap. Could be under fire here from Spencer pretty soon.
Yeah, we'll have to see, and obviously they don't have too much time anymore left either. Just about 8.5 minutes on the clock remaining, and then we already have to call the end of race number 2.
The races just absolutely fly by, don't they? I mean, the racing has just been absolutely phenomenal so far today, and I find it interesting that at a street circuit of all things, that's where the racing has been cleanest so far. We have not seen, too many really massive shunts so far today, and there's the usual chaos that was brought up as a result of the reverse style grid, but we had so many big incidents at Oulton Park 1 week ago, and in the Club Cup as well, not just when the HyperX GT Sprint Series went there a little while ago, which just goes to show just how these street circuits can operate, right? I mean, you can kind of get a bit of a mishmash of everything. You don't really know what type of race you're going to get until you actually let that green flag drop and everybody goes out there and sees what they've got.
Yeah, maybe this race also was cleaner just because of the tremendous challenge the track itself already is. So maybe they dialed down a little bit on their aggression just because of knowing that it is going to be the Belle street circuit, and it is a little bit more wiser to take a cautious approach just because of how easy it sometimes can be to push your opponent into a mistake rather than to be aggressive and try to overtake someone with that, as there was a mistake right there on the speech. Thomas Cope, Olympus Esports, a lap down car, had a spin through turn 3.
That's 46 Porsche 911 GT3 entry. But bad outing for Olympus Esports here today. I mean, I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it, though. I mean, they were looking so good. Started 7th place in race 1, finished 26th because they got into the wall, and from 26th place, they've only gotten up to 19th, and they're 6 laps down still. It's a bit it sucks to see, for Olympus Esports to be so far back. They've been so consistent, just in the top 10 all season long. But, you get those tracks that just aren't your facility, and it looks like Detroit is Olympus Esports.
Yeah, and obviously also in race 2 they did get collected in that lap 1 incident as well. So that race 2 also was off to a very, very, very bad start for them. And obviously from that on, you can't really get any much better anymore. So they're most definitely doing the best out of the worst.
Battles on for 13th place, and Tim Spesser alongside with VC Sim Racing down through 6 and 7. They kept it steady though, and VC Sim Racing pulled ahead just into the fountain section. Thought he might try for the lunge, but it'd be an AM on a Pro-Am car, and Spesser has proven before he is a smart cookie when it comes to choosing his battles here for the time being. So this will be an interesting one here, and well, some potentially big news for the 5-Star Motorsports crew. Meatball flag for the number 5 entry. Where do you think that would have come from?
Probably turn 12.
I'll take a look at it. I'm looking back now just to see where
35. Oh yeah, turn 13, lap 35. That's where Adam Isaacson hit the wall hard on the outside and did break his left rear suspension.
That really sucks for 5-Star Motorsports. They were looking so good. Oh no! And a big spin up the grid. RSO sends VC around. That was not a pretty sight at all. Sorry, Westwood, I think, might have sent the VC Racing machine around. Actually, looking at it again, I don't think he did. I think that was just VC all by himself that took a little bit of a slide there. So that's a weird incident.
That was by Team RSO 197 on RSRYG Performance. So, yeah, McCormack had that spin, and I'm not sure what happened there. There might have been a little bit of the N-word there as well.
We'll see. Up the little bit of a touch. Yeah, right rear. Sends RSRG Performance around. McCormack into the wall.
So he did even need net code. That was just unfortunate. Team RSO misjudging the gap, hitting the rear end of RSR by G Performance, and that spins McCormack around and spins McCormack into 4th place. Thankfully though, didn't lose apart from that one position, because Shane Berg is that far down. Still the gap is 20 seconds between McCormack and Shane Berg.
I gotta be honest, that spin that we just saw there from RSRG Performance, you could see that coming a while ago. I mean, the 197 RSO machine, they've been trying that move so many times throughout this race. It worked the first time, they couldn't complete the pass the second time, and had to dump the driver in front of them to make it work the third time. So, yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily that's third time's the charm that time around. I mean, there are some moves that arguably shouldn't be made. I think that was one of them.
Yeah, most definitely right there with you, as we are on board, continuing to be with 12th place driver there. It was never on. It did never look really on, because even the first time around with the rusty spatulas, they had to jump out of the turn so that the 197 is going to drive into them. So I wouldn't even call the first time a working pass, but either way they are into 3rd place now. And Pure Sims, it's going to be interesting what they are now going to be able to hold up against Team RSO 197.
How about Impulse Racing? The 257 entry started 10th place, and it's been an up and down day for them so much throughout the course of this race. They started this thing, they were by far the slowest qualifiers. They qualified a 136 compared to a 128 for the next closest driver up to qualify 24th for race number 1. Worked their way up to finish 11th place. That means they started 10th in race 2, and now they lead the races they have for so long. It's been a great run for Marco Yeager and his team in the Impulse Racing 257. Himself and Thomas Hagelstein have been doing such a great job on working that Lamborghini up into the lead and just pulling away from guys behind them. And at the moment, with I believe this will be 2 to go this time by, there's nothing that can compete with them. And you look back to Robin Haas at the moment, still trying to run down the Pure Sims Esports IVRA machine of Eric Grove for 2nd. even Eric Grove has been able to kind of get the hammer down now. He's been able to pull out a substantial gap over Robin Haas. So a minute and 20 remaining. Next time by will be white flag lap for all drivers in this field. But for Marco Jaeger, he is still has 2 laps to go in this one. He's gonna get to the line well quicker than 1 minute at the time being. I think it'll be about 20 seconds or so left when he takes that white flag, at which point we'll be starting the final trip around.
I have to say, I didn't look at the time when he passed the start-finish line, but I think it was much closer than that. Either way, I'm with you there. It is going to be another lap after this one for Marco Jaeger. Like, even if he would just completely park it right now and let the time run out, there still would be another lap to go, just because of iRacing calculating the white flag by the average of the last 5 laps leading up to the white flag. So he still would get that white flag, even though he wouldn't in reality. Either way, Marco Jaeger is starting his last lap right now over the stripe with 5 seconds to spare.
And the white flag is waving from Detroit Belle Isle, and we get set to wrap out what has been an absolute barnstormer of a street circuit race here today. It has had passes, it's had calamity, it's had fantastic pit strategies playing up and down throughout the field, and that's really, I think, the big story of this race, right? I mean, it was the pit strategies. That's what made the races today. Usually it's been the on-track action, but at a street circuit like this where it's so hard to pass, you have to outsmart your opponents, particularly through those crucial mandatory pit stops, and that, I think, decided the race for a lot of drivers today.
Yeah, I'm with you right there. The pit strategies were superb by the drivers that utilized them to their full extent. They knew that coming into this race that this will be a very hard track to make up positions, so they went to the pit stop strategies. And if you're a master of the strategies, that's really where you can pull out big gaps.
So for Impulse Racing and Marco Jaeger coming around through turn number 11, and it'll be a solid run for them up through 12. For Impulse Racing, started 24th in race 1, got to 11th, started 10th in race 2, and they will come around turn 14. Marco Jaeger wins the 2nd race in round number 4 of the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series from Detroit Belle Isle. And you continue to watch some of these battles out of getting set to sort themselves out further down the order. You've got this fierce fight here as 5-Star Motorsport and HyperX atomizing, trying to get one more spot. And of course, now Isaacson 2 laps down as a result of that meatball flag. It's so unfortunate to see them falling from 18th place, or from what would have been a top 10 spot all the way down to 18th. But a meatball flag at the end of the day is a meatball flag. You got to serve them. So Isaacson will bring it home, 18th place. Their points gap here in this race here, Stefan, has just been shattered.
Yeah, that have been shattered, and maybe even a little bit the hopes and dreams of that car, because most definitely that means a big dent into their championship hopes as well.
Look at the Olympus Esports Ferrari looking to duke it out for 15th place with Awesome Motorsports. This is the final battle you got on track at the moment, and this could be a fun one here if Matt Loveridge can potentially get a run up on 100 mark in these final couple of corners. Oh, but a bit of a run wide moment through turn 12 for Loveridge will mean that Awesome Motorsports will pull out at 15th place over Olympus Esports Ferrari entries. So let's take a look now at your official post-race results as a final car crosses the line here from Detroit. Race winner Marco Jaeger brings it home for Impulse Racing. Eric Grove will finish it off in 2nd place with Robin Haas down in 3rd. Mark McCormack only good enough for 4th place at the RSI by G Performance BMW. Shane Burke is in 5th place with Rusty Spatula is down in 6th. Impulse Racing, your Pro-Am winner, will round it out in 7th place of the 256 entry, with the World of Sim Racing team picking up an AM race win in the 151. Maniti Racing will finish it out in 9th place, with Full Send Racing down in 10th. That carries on over to 11th place now for Westwood Racing Esports. In 2nd place for the AM category, Mag Performance Junior team is in 12th, with BSTV Esports in 13th. VEC Sim Racing in 14th. Awesome Motorsport Group in 15th. Olympus Esports, last drivers on the lead lap, down to 16th place. V Racers is one down in 17th, with 5-Star Motorsports in 18th. Olympus Esports for the Porsche entry down in 19th place. And now we're getting into the cars that have not finished the race. You got RSR by Primus down in 20th, and then rounding out the 28-car grid, you got Kazar Sim Racing, Project Dynamic, Vector by RSR, Torque Freak Racing, Team RSO, Cube Racing 890, World of Sim Racing, and Ronin Academy not even making the race start for race number 2. So 2 races done and dusted, and a full 2 hours of racing complete. And holy cow, Stefan, what a race. We'll see if we can maybe get a few of the drivers to give us a chat over the course of the night, but I have to say, that was about as good of a street circuit race you could possibly hope for.
Yeah, most definitely. Coming into this race, I don't think any of us really expected to see such a clean race. While we still had a lot of aggressive moves, they pretty much all ended up being quite nice as well. So really have to give kudos. They knew what kind of track they were facing and did do all of the practice that they could possibly do to not only keep their cars this clean, but also keep the racing as clean and tight as it was throughout these 2 hours worth of racing.
And of course, you got to look forward right to what's coming next, right? I mean, this is by far one of the most difficult tracks you can have, a decent race. I mean, street circuit races historically are never the best for side-by-side action for, well, the obvious, right? I mean, they're bumpy, they're on public roads. They are called street circuits for a reason, but you come around to next week's race and it's going to be so much more crazy, right? I mean, you've got yourself Brands Hatch coming on up, and then of course the circuit is Jean Villeneuve, home of the Canadian Grand Prix and the FIA Formula 1 World Championship to round out the series. So who knows? We could be in for a fun race tonight. We got yourself 2 more coming up here in just a short order here. For now, though, it looks like we might be able to have a driver to come by and give us a little bit of a chat here for tonight. Mika Takala is going to join us up here in the broadcast booth. And for you guys over Rust of Spatulas, it was a bit of an interesting night for you guys. You finished 16th in race 1, 6th place, though, in race 2. So good job to recover for that one and to come home with a solid 6th place finish in that second race.
Yeah, it was, well, we made it more difficult to us than it should have been because we registered with the wrong car or wrong team and wrong car number. So I guess the scoring was also wrong, and we, in the second race, we won our class. So, but starting from the back in the first race was quite interesting, and we thought that it would have been more difficult than it was.
And of course, you still find yourself with a solid outing, though, and this could help you guys in your own championship standings for the team. Do you think you guys have any set goals as to where you want to find yourself ended up with 2 races left on the season?
Well, the first few races have always been so that we have some success in the first race and then some failure or accident or something in the first race. Second race, and then I think the tactic for the rest of the races is to be strong in both of the races and then see how it goes.
Well, at the moment you entered this race 5th place in the Pro-Am standings. Hopefully you'll be able to leave here at least 5th, if not potentially 4th place as well. Brands Hatch comes up in a few weeks' time, and that is obviously going to be a track that's going to be arguably a lot better for side-by-side racing than Detroit ever was. What do you think we can expect coming on over into our race in England?
Well, we haven't really driven that track as much as some other tracks, and it's of course very traditional track, but there's places on that track where even a small mistake can throw you into a wall quite hard, and it might be easy to do those mistakes. So we will at least try to avoid them.
Well, fingers crossed you'll be avoiding everything that could come with calamities of reverse grid racing and all the other ups and downs of the HyperX GT series over at Brands Hatch in a few weeks' time. Thanks for joining us, Mika, and hopefully I wish you all the best of luck going forward in the next 2 races.
Yeah, thank you.
As we get to Kala, bringing it home for the Rusty Spatulas crew. Wasn't in the car tonight, I believe, just sitting by as a crew member here today in Detroit. But he kind of brings up a good point, Stefan, right? I mean, not a street circuit, but by all means, it's also one of those tracks where the slightest mistake can absolutely throw you into a barrier. Look at the Paddock Hill Bend at turn 1. I mean, it's a downhill zone in a sand trap, yes, but you go off there, 9 times out of 10, you're backing into the wall with these GT3s.
Yeah, backing it into the wall, then nosing it into the other wall, and then probably getting side out right into the racing line and getting hit by another car. That's just how Brands Hatch can go. And let's be honest, the rest of the circuit also isn't that kind to mistakes. So very much so, like Takala said there quite nicely, it still is quite a dangerous track to make even the liliest of mistakes.
It is a very traditional track, one that has been present since 1950, and we get set to see what it has for us in a few weeks' time for the HyperX GT Series over in December. But for now, it is time to wrap here from Detroit Belle Isle. I'm Adola Rampel with Stefan Schlacker beside me in the commentary box, and Ryan Bauer down behind the cameras for tonight's race. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for RaceSpot TV for more IVRA action for the HyperX GT Sprint Series. We'll see you all in a few weeks, and we'll see you next week at VIR for the ClubSport Series.